trying to go. I think the issue is there's probably a lot of people that are trying to will this into existence, and there's absolutely no reason for it to happen. It just looks good on the chart. It looks good because of obviously the day that it is, and it looks good because of the price that it's at. There is nothing else happening here in MSOS for it to go. If there was even a small catalyst, I would be looking for this breakout over 420 all day. It's just, what are you supposed to do? There's no reason for this to happen. It's kind of jokes and kind of cool that on obviously 420 day that it happens to be at that price and it happens to look like a potential breakout trade. But the market's not looking too good as we're about to throw you guys over. Again, it turns out that it's just going to be the shock in oil futures down is leading everything lower. And even one of the strongest names out there, like Apple, was leading the way, hasn't even put a green candle in the last hour. From 10 to 11, it's just been straight to the downside. So I'm going to be looking short some pops. That USO 121 is going to have to be it. There's some good scalping today, but I feel like it was a lot of scalp trading. You know, get short, flip long, and play it in both directions. Now that we've made a direction, not in any of the shorts. So we'll have to be patient getting back into them. We've got Joe doing double duty because that's what he does. I mean, Sean will be back from the beach later on this week. Till then, you got the professor, you got Joey options. I'm going to get some lamb. You'll always have it there at the desk. And apparently Rob, too, just chilling out at the desk. Wave to him. Say hi, Rob. There it is. Oh, he gives a, there he goes. Yeah, there it is. We'll fire it back. I'll be back at noon for the lesson, and I'm going to enjoy that lamb. Treat.
Hopefully it's good.
I kind of have that.
You're about that life, right?
Of course. Yeah.
We're good to go. Bang. Greetings and salutations, beautiful people. Welcome to the midday show. Well, you probably just saw him right there. He's back. It is Joey freaking Options. I'm Sharif. And let's say hello to everybody who's moseying on over into the chat. KC526. I see you got a new picture there, girl. Get it. We got Gorev. We got Mr. Leahy. Rivian Millionaire. You know you beauty. Kalua. Ronaldo. Danish. We got Jabril. We got who else, man? Bark Dahl. Durant Gordon. Rodney Owens. And Hangry Wife. Shout out to JG Grinch? I don't know, I can't read that. Manifest Codes Now. Wyatt, Grant, Kalua, Justin. We got Ja P, Mike P, D Ryder. Mike, if I ever say your name and I don't do it in that way, I want you to call me out, brother. Because, you know, shout out to Mr. Janky Stock. Howdy, right back at you, baby. Shout out to Funny Ali. We got Henny Wasson. We got Anthony and Sky. I like these couples that use co-accounts.
Like the co-account?
You got a co-account with Selena, Joey?
No.
No?
No.
Oh, I'm going to have to tell her about that one.
That's crazy.
That's crazy. Black Sheep Trades. 907 Warrior. I love it, man. We got Auspicious Turtle. Who else, man? We got Kirk D. Hinsey, Darwin, the frickin' trader, Wall Street Journal reporting the Justice Department is criminally investigating beef. Stop, Darwin. Stop. They're not investigating beef. Don't take away some of my simple pleasures in life. I like a good steak or two, and I don't want the Pentagon interfering with that, Joey. Let's take a quick look. We're going to let your boy Joey Options set up.
We're set up, brother.
We're already set up?
Yeah, we're good to go, man.
How'd you do it that quick, man? You're making everybody look bad,
Listen,
man.
The thing in life is once you've done something a couple of times, you try to get a little bit better at it, right?
You try to get better. I thought you just wanted to stand still.
No,
I thought you might actually want to go back.
No.
Regress a little bit.
Regression?
No, man. We're talking about regression?
Confession.
Oh, God. Oh, God.
All right, guys.
Oh, God.
Adam James. All right, here we go. We're going to kick things off with a $5 super chat. Wait, you don't like that song?
No, man. I'm not talking about you, man. I'm talking about him.
Okay. Bang, bang, bang. We'll hit this one for our boy Adam James. I got my Stream Deck. Back, so you guys are in trouble. We'll hit that one there. All right, guys. Mosquera or Toast. Yes. This one's more bottlers. A lot going on. Chia. A lot of things that I don't know.
Joseph has no idea what you're saying.
What's going on there.
He has no idea about anything you just said there, Adam, but I love it anyway. Mosquera on Toast. No, brother. Look, it was a good game. I'm not going to crap on Arsenal, okay? I thought it was pretty competitive. I thought City played a little bit better, but we hit 3 posts, so you guys hit a couple as well. You guys got the better of us that day, and hey, man, now we're our backs against the ropes, And technically, you guys have a game in hand, but still 3 points back. We'll see if you guys can finish off. Hopefully, we'll get our players back, and we'll be able to string a couple of games in the win column because we haven't been able to, certainly.
All right,
Let's get right down to work.
Let me do my little spiel, then I'll send it, and then I'll send it off to you guys. Something that we were talking about earlier today, and we had the expiration cycle over here on the SPY, 0 DTE, so they're going to be expiring today. So we've seen almost 100% increase in implied volatility. We were looking at 9% over more, actually. So implied volatility now kicked up to 19.9% as the market is continuing to slide, something that we wanted to keep an eye out on. Now, as for Oracle, we don't necessarily need to talk about this, but we haven't mentioned this name very much today. Now, as for the implied volatility, you're going to see an uptick. 0 DT, you have those on NVDA. You can see that there's not much open interest going on, but watch out, 44.3%. We were sitting in the low 30s not too long ago. Now, as for the NASDAQ, the exact same narrative. Lower implied volatility, now starting to see a substantial uptick. That is almost going to triple. We were sitting at 8%. Now we're sitting at 24.1% here on the 0 DTE options. As for the broader picture, we head over to April 24th, 22%. The further you go down in the options chain, the less implied volatility per those derivative contract, okay? So keep an eye out on that. The market's starting to bleed, a little bit more fear stepping in, and the headline sensitivity back in vogue, Sharif, as we have the conflict and the ceasefire with a potential deadline of Wednesday evening. Keep an eye out on some more downside as Tesla's putting in a new low of the day, and the NASDAQ, SPY, Bitcoin's headed there, and AA, I don't know why I have that name up on there, is Alcoa holding up relatively well.
I know that was one from last week.
Yeah,
it was
up for last week.
Good call.
Yeah.
All right, guys, let's get right down to work. Here's what I'm looking at. It's by no means an exhaustive list of small cap gappers. There's quite a few today. They're not all rocketing up, but there's a lot that's chart patterns deserve our attention. Let's start with the biggest, the baddest of them all on the day. ENVB's up 147%, but as you can see here, we're putting in a bit of a downtrend, man, with the 543 high that was done during right at the implied balance open, right at 9:30. So we make the high of the day, right to basically just to start the day like that. It looks like we're finding a little bit of support here. Funny enough, yes, at 420. I realize it's 420 as well. There's support at 420, give or take. It's a little bit below the volume weighted average price, which is a little bit above the $0.25, say 427 or so. I have post-traumatic stress disorder from taking these breakdown trades long. What I'm talking about is these very, very prolonged lower highs, and then a trend line break like we're seeing right now on ENVB, because my observation in the last few weeks is when I've taken them long, they end up making a lower high. Case in point, basically every single one last week. No, it doesn't matter. We're going to continue to watch this if it sets up the right way. I'm specifically talking about 5. If it clears that $5 area, I could get long. Now, the reason what I'm talking about here, in case you're not really following along with this specific trade, we get a really, really nice big move up. We make intraday highs, then we get a more prolonged than usual downtrend, and then you get a decided trend line break like we're getting right now. What I'm noticing is it doesn't work its way back into the high of the day. In this case, it'd be 543. What it does is it ends up making a lower high. So in this specific instance, if it was to do that, it could maybe get up to 490, 5, and then it would basically top out there, give or take. Maybe it breaches 5 on a wick basis, loses it on the next subsequent candle, which makes a new area low, okay? Or another lower low, if you're looking on a per candle basis. So ENVB, I'm gonna have to keep this one on the side chart because it's up 153% and looking the best out of the bunch, quite frankly. But I'm gonna be quite selective in how I decide to trade it. Now, looking at the technicals, clearly a seller at 5. I won't be convinced any different. Look at the 9:30 candles all the way to 10 o'clock. That's half an hour of not one closing print on the 5-minute chart above that $5 level on a wick basis only. What does that tell you? That tells you that the shorts and or both, the longs, the profit takers and or the shorts are setting up quite aggressively at that $5 area. Now, not aggressive enough to prevent it from breaching altogether, but aggressive enough to keep it from closing above that level, at least on the 5. So very, very, very interested in trading ENVB, but going to be very selective in how I get in. That's the first one. WLDS, looking pretty good here, up 71 and change. Alas, we are still markedly below that pre-market high, which got at about 360. The official high day is about 294. Now, this is one of those ones as well that is making yet another lower high. Tried to work up into 294 being the best it could do. And here we are breaking 260 again into the 250s. So we're above VWAP. Now, I get into the trade here if we hold this 250 area, which just happens to overlap with the volume-weighted average price, and then we breach the high of the day, which is 294, because that would be higher high and then another higher high after that, okay? So that would be, in my opinion, a trend change. But it'll have to get above 294 and or 3 for me to get involved. We got to talk about BlackBerry, obviously not a small cap gapper in the strict sense, but trading like one very momentum driven. Let's see if this one can break the downtrend. Right now, it's 4 candles in a row on the 5, uninterrupted in the Ville of Red. Let's see if this one holds up at 525, my favorite number, combination of numbers, which is the volume weighted average price. So 525 VWAP on BB. We've talked about those 3. Let's talk about LWLG, a bit more expensive of a name. I want to say about almost 14 bucks, showing 1388. Just got into VWAP, finds a bit of a bottoming tail candle into 13 2/3, and here it is, trying to work back into 14. It'll also have to show me a decided trend change and likely a move above 14 for me to get involved. That's LWLG. Let's go on to Q. Q has been running for a number of days. Let's flip to the 15 because I've been trading this multiple days. Looks like it really got the breakout there on the 7th. That was the day before I came back. And then I probably caught this one on the 10th because I had a great day on the 10th. So this one's been a multi-day runner. And the beautiful thing about CUE is it's not really giving up prior day levels. Like it has days where it consolidates and does, you know, relatively nothing, comparatively speaking, to the prior day. But you look at this trend here, especially looking from early April, late March, this is pretty good, man. Just give you an example from the low of the 6th of April to the highs of today. We're up 383% in the matter of a couple of weeks. So CUE in focus for me. Levels on this one are 72.5 is where VWAP is, so we'll keep tabs on that. FLWS. This is, why isn't this on the, it is. It's up 18 4/5%. It just got into the high of the day, 462 high. This one's a little illiquid. Let me take a quick look here what the spread is on this monster, FLWS. There it is, 1 penny. Okay, it wasn't always that way. It's going from 3 to 4 down to 1, 462 high. So this one is continuing trend. You get into that 4 2/3 and you automatically, you know, get a bias for me that we might be on the way to 5. So FLWS might be money here off key levels. WLDS though, we were talking about this one holding VWAP and breaching that 294.3. It is setting up that way, okay? So I've got my risk calculator up and I'm gonna have to load up the trading screen because here comes 294. So WLDS, let's load this one up on the trading screen. WLDS on the NQ, I believe. Yes, there we go. 1 penny spread. We just got, again, why are you not working? I hate you. WLDS. Okay, on the 5, we just got, I believe, into 293. So we just price spiked up 1 penny below the official high of day. And here we are again into 91s. I'd like to see a decided break of 3. I realize that we're markedly below the 9 a.m. high, which is 360, but this would be a decided trend change and a move above that whole dollar level. That gets me interested into the trade, Joey. Mm-hmm. It's up 90%, so I know it's going to be on a lot of people's radars. FLWS, WDLS, and BB. Those are the 3 that I'm really interested in at the moment. ENVB, not so much until it changes its tune. What's your look?
Good stuff. All right, guys. So, I mean, is my boy Gaurav in the chat, Los Polios? I'm curious what you guys are thinking here. There's some really nice prints off of the lows, but we have to be cautious of days like this where we're headline sensitive. You have the breakdowns, and then you start to form these indecision prints around the low of the day where they just don't work, and each consecutive one gets blown past, making them essentially invalid. So let's keep an eye out on that one. If we head over to the lower time frame, on mine, it's not necessarily what we want to see. There was something on the 1 minute, but I was like, okay, is this a genuine print or is it essentially invalid? And that's been the case. Even though you're finding somewhat of a rebound, you can see that there's very minimal buying pressure stepping into the market right now. I think the narrative is going to be the continuation to the short side, especially considering we have USO continuing to somewhat climb, right? So it's just buy the dips essentially on this one. Not the most liquid, but on the 5 minute time frame, we had that massive volatility spike. And then now we haven't really broke down from those levels. If we can hold this and hold structure, you're now forming that consolidative base where you've had somewhat of a liquidity grab, nothing substantial, but then buyers step in immediately. Inverse correlation, you have the upticks in USO, and then you have the downtick here in the TQQQs. Am I hearing a dare? Am I logged in? Yeah, I'm logged in. All right, anyways, aside from that, guys, be cautious on today. For me, I'm sitting on my hands. We took a couple of hits this morning, and with that being said, I have to be extremely patient and precise, most importantly, with my up-and-coming decisions. Joe just watched dispersion, Apple, NVDA up, Microsoft down. Yeah, way to point that out. We can head over through the big names as we typically do. We can head back into the options chain momentarily. But as for NVDA to the downside, if you're going to go long anyone, I think it's this off of the lows. NVDA 198. We were high of 201 not too long ago. Holding up that level. Apple back below the volume weighted average price. Google to the downside, same thing. So we have multiple prints across the board. And I mean, hindsight going to be 2020. It's either it's going to work really, really well or it's not going to work at all. But across the Mag 7, we have identical price action prints.
Sorry, give me a second.
Yeah, absolutely.
I have to put in order.
No problem. I can ramble on for a little bit more. But if I'm going to go long any specific name, I would be a little bit more patient. That base is being formed, but what we don't want is a shelf that doesn't look healthy. Now, we have that 198.31 holding up on the 5 minute, a good signal. Now, if we have one more additional pullback, we hold those lows, then maybe we can find somewhat of a grind. But I don't know if that's necessarily going to be the case. If I'm that hesitant, and if it's not that clear for me, then it's just like hands off, risk off essentially. Friday, we were risk on when we had that. We had the new step in. Today, not necessarily the case for me, so I have no issues with not putting on anything just yet.
All right, brother. We're in BlackBerry here, guys. We got 39s, showing 43s. I'm looking for another attempt at 550. 1R for me is going to be 49. But that's a little too close to the $0.50, so I'll take it out at 48. 2R goes into 59, so we'll see exactly how this cookie crumbles. I'm still quite interested in working into WLDS. Bottoming tail candle getting defended now off 275, and we're starting to see a possible ascending wedge pattern manifest here on WLDS, right? We've got this flat top, 294. We know it's generally going to be the 290 to $3 area that's going to be resistance. Pardon me, closing prints below 290. Wicks go into the mid 290s. And here we are again. There's an epic struggle happening right now between longs and shorts at this level. I'm talking about high 80s, low 90s right now on, what's this one called? WLDS. Looking for, let's liquidity tester here on the berry. Good, all right. We're doing good here. Up into 545 is the berry, nicely in the money on BlackBerry. Good look there. But there goes WLDS coming again down into the 70s, 80s. Unsure. Here comes. That was just another high day touch there. That's a breach of the high of the day by WLDS. That just got into 298. That's an aggressive price spike up at around 3. That breaches prior bar high. Prior bar high on WLDS, but no follow through. Look at it drop right back down into the 70s. So this one is going to need a little bit more. I'm not going to be dealing with this volatility of getting it into the 90s and having it drop into the 70s on me. No, thank you. It's going to have to clear 3. I'm going to need to see an aggressive buyer blowing through those levels before I get involved. I didn't. No, Assassino, I didn't. I appreciate it, brother. Assassino, always doing it live. Let's go right here.
Oh, we go. Oh, we did.
We're gonna have to read this one again, Assassino.
Read it again, man.
All right. Goodness gracious. Adam James abroad. Again, Haaland. Yeah, all right, bro. All right, bro. Yeah, that was a good goal. I give him that. That was a good goal. He fought off Gabriel. He was the stronger guy on that particular incident. He turned and shot. It was a great goal. He's a great goal scorer. I think he's one of the best players probably to put on the Man City shirt. Come at me if you will. I think he's better than Balotelli. I think he's better than Kun Aguero. I just think he is. He's bigger. He's taller. He's faster. He's more vicious.
Yeah.
I think Kun Aguero is probably a bit more technically gifted.
Yeah.
But I don't think...
Balotelli was my guy back in the day.
Well, Balotelli, he's a wild card of a player. You can't rely on him.
Yeah.
You can't rely
He's not that consistent.
No.
It's like him and Didier Drogba. Those were my two guys. That's who I.
Didier?
Yeah.
Didier is one of the OGs. He's one of the best African players to ever put on a Premier League shirt.
Drogba, right?
He's from Côte d'Ivoire, Ivory Coast.
Yeah.
A hell of a player. A hell of a player.
There
goes Blackberry into 48s. We wet the beak. We're waiting for the cross here into 49s. That's going to be 1R for me. We're really holding, I want to say, like 90% of the trade. I'm just taking stuff out here because there's something to do. I'm looking for the 48s, though. If it gets into 48s and crosses, I print on 1R. It's a 49 penny high, so I do expect there to be resistance. And here's 48. We got a cross here for me to get the print. There's selling. There's big selling here at 48. Let's see if the buyers can take off some of these sell orders here on the exchange. No continuation yet. You in the berry?
No, sure.
Go ahead.
Something's going on in the market once again.
Right,
we might have a little bit, some headline coming in momentarily.
State Department official.
There you go.
Yeah.
You have it?
We'll probably go to Adara.
Okay.
We'll probably go to Adara, yeah.
I do have a headline here. It looks like U.S. is going to be hosting talks between Israel and Lebanon on April 23rd. That's being reported by Axios and also coming from a State Department official. This will be a second round ambassador-level talk specifically here at the State Department of the U.S. Apparently, this will be continuing that engagement that we had last week on the 14th of April, so last Tuesday. They're going to be continuing to facilitate direct good faith discussions. So again, Israel-Lebanon, second round of negotiations here reportedly happening on April 23rd. So that would be this Thursday, as being announced by the U.S. as reported by Axios. Back to you.
Thank you.
Yes.
So I was doing a little research there on your friend Bloom Energy, Joey, because I was like, should I be cashing a little bit, or what's the situation? No, but I want to get serious here. So this latest move up kind of has nothing to do with their fuel cell technology. You know what they're doing?
What is it?
They're putting out these nat gas generators. Nothing to do with hydrogen fuel cells, which was kind of their moat, right?
Oh, okay.
They're just putting out these generators that are super low polluting, so like not like the Memphis-style XAI generators that Elon's getting sued by the NAACP for, but it's nothing to do with what their focus is, so totally disruptible. In any event, they're like super low polluting generators used by data centers. It's like, again, what we talked about, bring your own power kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's kind
But that's good though, right? Like, I mean, if you look at it, but hey, why? It's diversification essentially, right? If you can establish something and it's a high margin product, something good that works for them. I know.
Defensible though? Because anybody and their mother can come in with these generators and,
well, I don't know if anybody and their mother could.
You know what I'm saying.
I get what you're saying, but I mean, if it adds more to their moat, as you would say, I think it's not too bad.
WLDS breakout into 324 high. Can we defend 3 here? So WLDS is on its horse. Where this one goes, I don't know. Current bar low takes us all the way down into 270s. I despise that. So if we were to give it to like 288s, let's see what we can get here. Do we get a hold at this level? I'm going to give it to 3, okay? So we've breached 3. Let's go ahead, give this one the old college try. We're in at 312s. It's a 324 high. If we lose 3, then I'm out. I'm going to have to give this one an opportunity here. Down we go into 297s. Where is my position on this one? There we go. Let's throw out the orders. So I'm going to give it to the mid-290s here because there's a lot of volatility that just price spiked up. I'm generally looking for a hold of 3. So we're in at 12. We're out of the money. It's a 324 high. Let's see if this one can continue up, Joey. We're still below the pre-market high, but we got an aggressive breakout there. WLDS in focus.
Yeah, I mean, there it goes, right? Like when we talk about seeing something across the board, you have a couple headlines making this market right back to where it was 3 weeks or a month ago or so now. As for SPY, right back into VWAP, we have NVDA doing the exact same thing, and then you have the inverse correlation coming into full effect with USO right back into this specific indicator. AMD starting to get a little bit of a bounce, same thing with Tesla. So you have to be patient. I have no worries. I'm not frustrated. I feel no FOMO, but it would have been nice to get involved off of that low for this move. Now, I just don't know if we have enough strength in order for us to break and hold. Downtrend has been broken, right? Like just barely, so that's not too bad of a look. Retest and a hold. But if it gets too aggressive and the retest is too aggressive in what we've seen earlier in the day here on Tesla, so right around this area, you get that climb, and then sure enough, you have 4 or 5 minutes of just essentially grinding higher, engulfed by one 1 minute candle. And then you're right back to the downside, and then you establish some new lows of the days, but a nice bounce off of there. I wouldn't be surprised if we reject the VWAP 59.93. That's also gonna come in as a key support level. So if you run into that area, you see some indecision prints on the lower time frame where you can get into a little bit more detail and get that slow curl over. Maybe you'll have some form of a continuation. I don't know if that's necessarily going to be the narrative because we have USO moving lower and the SPY TQ is coming in on that inverse correlation with AMD looking like it wants to head back in towards VWAP as well. Quite a ways away, 79, that's $4 or so from where we're currently trading, but the ATR is just really grown on this one over the past month. But I see you got something on WLDS.
Yeah, it's going, Joey, but it's still not above the official day high, 324. Scalping out. 1 hour for me takes me to 336. They're selling at the $0.25. Popping into the low 20s here, but no continuation on the new 5-minute candle above prior bar high. So it's going to be a 3 1/4 resistance right now on WLDS, up 110%. I'm in at 12s. I've taken a little bit out here just because of the volatility of the name, but I'm definitely looking for that 336. Of course, before we start looking at the third of a dollar, we got to get through the quarter. And right now we're in the low teens. So, pardon me. So nothing to celebrate yet. I did get a couple of beak wetters, but nothing to write home about. I'm holding BlackBerry here, and I'm still holding a good position, despite the fact that this is rejecting again at the $0.50. That gets me out a little bit because I don't want to deal with that kind of rejection. Back to WLDS, coming back into single digits here. It looks like it might lose 3. So I've given it to the 90s because I didn't want to get stop hunted. Also, you can kind of see where the buying was, right? The selling, that is, was around, I want to say 290. The wicks went into the mid 90s. Pardon me. And then we got the big price spike up above that $3 area. $3 showing up again, aggressive buying and selling at these levels. And there we go. I get stopped out for the last remaining amount. So we will give back a little bit on that one. Got to do it. All the way right back down, though, into this level. This is the buy level here, though. We're going to get in here, and we're going to give it to the mid-60s because this is the same level off which it keeps finding support, and I don't want to miss this one. So there we go. We're going to give that one a little bit of room. WLDS, we got 78s, looking for a price spike up, selling in the mid-80s here. Let's give this one at least to the high 90s. Let's see if we can get bought up quite aggressively. There's a lot of selling at this level, but there's also a lot of buying. Anything in this high 60s ends the trade for me. I'm trying to hold up here at the 10 EMA, but this one's aggressively selling. What did we get? We got 78, so we're not that far out of the money. In fact, we're kind of break even at the moment, but they're selling. There's a lot of selling at this level, and there's really no buying. Look at the amount of size coming in on the ask side of the level 2. So even though this is an area of support, the buyers are not stepping in, at least for now, Joe.
All right, good stuff. Now, guys, let's head right back in. I know my boy Top VoIP saying, hey, Joe, what about ARM? ARM pretty strong today. And then we have my guy Darius as well. Don't worry, I see what you guys say in the chat. We'll take a look at it. Yeah, I mean, Apple was strong, and it's a pretty good pattern, right? This is textbook for an ABCD, essentially. So right out of the open, you have this consolidation, taps right into the volume-weighted average price, but all that indecision on this breadth, and then you take that additional leg higher is a pretty good look. I mean, hindsight being 20/20 at the end of the day, but nonetheless, still holding up with the market at its lows up the day, and you have this holding up the opening range open is pretty good. All right. Now, as for ARM holdings, we could take AMR. We want ARM. Take my strong ARM. Aside from that, like new high of the day here in ARM. but I'm pretty sure like the majority of this is held by SoftBank. So I don't know as for if they want to move the name essentially, what is the percentage of the float that is held by SoftBank? Nonetheless, it doesn't matter.
80 something.
Yeah,
something.
like 85%. Yeah, so it's the majority of it is institutionally held, which kind of sways me away from it. But hey, oh well, that could be a good teller, Adara.
So you look here at BTC. Bitcoin is going to be on watch here once again. I mean, it's interesting. We are still kind of in that uptrend, both like, you know, the original uptrend from these lows we made in February 6th, I believe. But then also, even if we were going to say we have like a trend line or whatever, speed line, starting from that low on March 29th. Either way, we're still holding these higher highs, higher lows on BTC. Now, we pulled back pretty sharply this weekend to the point where even though Bitcoin was up on the day, we still had these crypto names that were actually down pre-market. Now that looks like they are mostly rebounding. And Bitcoin also getting a big purchase here from MicroStrategy, or now known as Strategy, with Michael Saylor buying 34,164 Bitcoin for $2.5 billion. Their holdings now surpass 815,000 Bitcoin. Now, for context, MSTR had roughly just over 400,000 Bitcoin going back to end of 2024. So in like a year and a half, they've amassed roughly 400,000 Bitcoin, nearly doubling their stack. So again, we're just shy of 1 million Bitcoin right now being held by MSTR. So interesting look there. Something I think certainly worth noting. Bitcoin actually could be on watch tomorrow with Kevin Warsh's confirmation hearing for the Fed chair position. If you're not aware, he's actually into crypto, and he apparently at one point actually advocated, I believe in 2018, for the Fed and the central bank to work on its own cryptocurrency. So interesting look there. The point is, crypto is certainly something that could come up potentially tomorrow. Back to you.
Okay. Yeah, thank you very much. No, as for the crypto space, guys, I mean, I was talking about this earlier this morning in IBIT. Even though we were up 17% off of those lows, I would have liked to see a little bit more strength. I mean, how identical is this pattern to what we're experiencing right now? You have a trend line break, essentially. If we were to draw that, so say we had all that incomplete data from there to there, you have that trend line break, and then sure enough, it's like, oh yeah, okay, whatever, rug pull, breaks through the support level. I'm not saying that's necessarily going to be the case now, but I would have liked to see some stronger days within Bitcoin or via IBIT. Just hasn't been the case whatsoever. Now, 10 euros. Beyond Meat is on the way to $1 and maybe more. Squeeze potential, what's your opinion? Yeah, I'll just be honest with you. I don't love these meme style plays. I think this company's gonna be delisted at some point. Here it is to the downside unless they continuously reverse split. You have that trend line break. It is continuing to climb, but nonetheless, volume there. I don't know how much I love it, to be honest with you. If you're prepared, and I just don't think it's an investment vehicle, but if you want to day trade it, but I wouldn't be holding on to it for very long. I don't know how you feel about that, Sharif.
All right, price target for BlackBerry. I'm looking for, so my 2R is going to be 559, 3R 69. So next profit taker in the high 50s. Should we be able to breach 550? That's the official high day that we just made, 550 on BB. I did get stopped out for a second time on WLDS as this one didn't hold up. So we go negative on WLDS here. Now, it's basically trying to hold up at the 75 penny area. I don't think this is for me because, well, it's not respecting prior areas of support and resistance. So I can't give this one forever and ever more. There's gonna have to be a price level I say, well, it's gotta hold up above here, otherwise I gotta get out. And that level is not being respected. So gotta look for something else if it's not gonna work in my way today, at least with the way that I trade. Maybe the way you trade, it fits fine for. I was looking at LWLG for a move above 14, but this looks like it's setting up short. Poet is right back into 9, and Poet could be a good setup as well, especially if you can get above and hold above 9. Breaches VWAP, but it's kind of, I don't know, I guess this kind of long call here was sort of foreshadowed by this, I had a bottoming tail candle, let's call it doji candle, the one that closed at 11:05, because since that time it's been all highs that are printing. CADL and FLWS remain in focus, so does Q. And yeah, those are the ones. ENVB is going to lose its spot on the side chart momentarily as this one is setting up for a flat bottom break. Neil, when you have a moment, how much would shorts on ENVB VB cost me. I suspect that they're going to be a little bit expensive because this thing's up 128%, but it's looking awfully flat bottom breakish. There goes BlackBerry into another area high. 552, that is the high of the day. We're going to take off very little amount. I'm saving the majority of it for 2R, which is 559. High is 552 now. So definitely keeping in that. There's 553, Joey. So we're stair-stepping up, and 4 shows like it could be on the way pretty soon as the size is getting taken off pretty aggressively on the ask side of the level 2 at 53. So that is a look there. Big E says WLDS as long as it holds 250. It's bullish. I'm long 68. Shout out to you, Big E, man. Big E's printing storms on that side of the screen in at the penny level. He's in at 68. So clearly you were in much more before today because I think the closing print on Friday was like $1.50. So couldn't have been from this morning. But WLDS, I see what you're saying, brother. You're absolutely not wrong. Volume weighted average price is right around that, I want to say, low 260 area. So as long as it's above VWAP, it's got my attention. But for now, it's not setting up in the way that I like. So, and there goes Poet. Poet's above 9. So let's get right down to work here. Let's see what Poet looking like on the time and sales. Got a 1 penny spread, and as I just pull it up, it starts failing 9. Good job, Poet. Good job. I'm going to continue to watch here, Joey, because if this stays above 9, then I could be an interested buyer. If it doesn't, if it loses 9, especially if the volume starts coming in quite nicely here and buoys it above 9, then I'm definitely game. Niraj, what are your thoughts on TOVX? Say less, Niraj. Load it up here, Joey.
Pull it up.
Pull up. TOVX. So, TOVX. What is this thing? Theriva, Biologics. Okay, cool. Biologics are pretty cool. $20 million market cap. Today, it's traded a light, and not so big on the day, 442 million shares. So I did see this one. It had a big move in the aftermarket on Friday. What I like about this chart, Niraj, is that it hasn't given up the Friday move. It's not at the highs, right? But it is not giving up the ghost either. And that's pretty bullish in my opinion, especially with these smaller names. Now, what I do see is a failed attempt here of the volume weighted average price, right? There's the double top, 1040, 1045, gets into 49 pennies, it loses trend. Fine, it loses trend, but it doesn't make an area low. It is a higher low, however you want to square this circle. So Niraj, I like this above the double top, even ideally a closing print above 50 probably weasels me into this trade. To take out that staunchy seller who's selling up a storm at 5 a.m., 6 a.m., by the way, yes, that 6 a.m. candle right there, the one that I'm pointing at 555 to be exact, 8.1 million shares traded hands at like 5 to 6 a.m. this morning. So there's ample amount of volume in the pre-market here. So we need to respect these levels because there could be big buyers and or sellers at that level. So that's what I'll be keeping my focus on. But there, Poet is breaking through 9. Poet is up into 915, 910. Let's keep an eye out on this one. It's got a 1025 candle that rejected at 921. Let's see what this one's got, Joey.
Yeah, it's a good look there on Poet, Sharif. I like that. We had a little bit of a rejection here at the volume weighted average price. But one thing that we have to take into factor is that USO is moving towards the high, and I don't know how much we're going to climb higher with the TQs, right? We're looking at that inverse play. Now, with this going higher, we haven't broken down, so is there somewhat of a lag going on? I think that's going to be the case. We couldn't breach it here on NVDA. With that being said, I need a lot more data in order for me to get involved in another trade. I want to see what's going to happen for the next little bit. We'll have some more 5-minute prints established, and then we can make a decision based off of that. So we'll continuously hold off looking for that sell a little bit more selling pressure here in SPY and TQQs. Adara.
Yeah, we had some comments coming through from the president of Iran, that's Pezeshkian, saying that, quote, honoring commitments is the basis of meaningful dialogue. Deep historical mistrust in Iran exists towards the U.S. Government's conduct. And in addition to that, they also have some unconstructive, in their opinion, and contradictory signals from American officials. So they're basically saying this carries, quote, a bitter message, which is that the U.S. seeks Iran's surrender. However, Iranians do not submit to force. So basically, Iran saying the U.S. wants us to surrender. There's a lot of distrust towards, I guess, Iran from the U.S. and from the U.S. towards Iran, et cetera, just saying that, yeah, like, we're not going to surrender to force. Things remain tense here, I guess, on both sides of this conflict. I just wanted to provide that update because I'm seeing that headline circulate from a couple of minutes ago. Looks like an X post from the president of Iran. Back to you.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of odd here as you see that we're almost right back at the high of the day in USO and we're still holding up, and with the market starting to uptick as well too. You have NVDA, we've been talking about this one, heading towards VWAP, and then we have USO here doing the exact same thing. So just be cautious. I mean, why are we on USOI? What is that? On the, we got the AMAX there. So, I mean, there it is, right? Like, it's still positive on the day, 5.5%, but the market still holding on as well. So, I mean, it's a bit trickier of one, and I typically expect this when you have these headlines stepping in all the time within the overall market. For me, it's just like, all right, what am I going to wait for? There's going to be a volatility spike. I'm going to give it less than another 40 minutes before we get a tweet or a headline that puts some more volume into this market. And with that being said, let's see if we can base a trade off of that.
Good job, Joey. In Poet here, POET, looking for a move back into the quarter dollar. What do we have? We have 7s. Let's see if liquidity tester at 10s, just to see what kind of resistance we got at 9s and 10s. There's 10. It's got to cross, though, for me to get the print. No continuation on Poet, at least for now. Volume dropping off a little bit. We haven't breached prior bar high, which takes us to 914.5. Yeah, so this one looks like it's a bit of a tougher trade as well. But BlackBerry doing quite well. BlackBerry's trending pretty aggressively. I don't want to take out the position here because I feel like we could have more upside, especially if we've cleared the $0.50. I feel like if we've cleared the $0.50 quite decisively, we could see the whole dollar by end of day. I'm talking about 6. So let's see what we get. John is talking about RKT, says it's pumping. Good look, John, into 1680 RKT. Let me just see if I can, you know what I'd like to do? I'd like to revamp my layout so that I've got one of these charts here that I can just refer to, because what I end up doing is I start doing TA for the chat, and then I lose my technicals, my entry on the names that I'm looking for. So that I don't want to happen more often than it's already happening. RKT up 1%, John, not a bad look. 1680 general area high. Keep your eye out on that. There goes BlackBerry, man, into 57s. That's a new high of day. How's Poet doing? It looks like it's going to fill 9. So that looks like a topping tail candle that's breached 9. It closed above 9, and here it is. We're going to breach prior bar low. That's super frustrating. So we're going to get stopped out if it loses 896. If it holds up at this current candle low, we won't get stopped out. But that is a little annoying, Poet, especially since we had that view on VWAP earlier on, but we didn't take it, sadly. FLWS also coming into the 10 EMA on the 5, which could be a buy here at 455, Joe.
All right, good stuff. So there's a couple of things that I'm going to touch on. I see Oleg, we'll go over that because it's a little bit more quicker. And then Digger Dave was asking us something in the chat that I believe that we're going to touch on momentarily. So let's head over to Netflix. What I've seen is like, yeah, but the real question is how deep is this pullback going to be? Right? I mean, obviously that's something outstanding when you consistently, and trading is based off of incomplete information. What we have here essentially is a bottoming signal. Is the volume where we want it to be? Not necessarily, but there is some buying pressure continuously stepping in. Am I buying it all the way up here off of that indecision print, essentially your signal, your green light to go? No. I would wait for a pullback in it for it to hold some key levels, okay? So that's what I'm thinking here on Netflix. Now, Digger Dave asking us essentially, hey, I want to learn a little bit more about the level 2 in the tape. We can touch on that momentarily. Now, I want us to, like, what is really important, and there's a couple examples throughout last week in which I noticed something, and it takes some time. I think learning the tape is one of the skills that takes the longest within trading, and something that it's like, when are you paying attention to it? Because a lot of it is noise. A lot of people call it the matrix, right? So the key thing about the time of sales is looking at it at key levels and at key moments. You have volatility spikes, so opening drives volatility spikes, and then the imbalance, right? So those are some key times, but I also want you to focus on it, and I use this example, and which really helped me is go back. If you have a tool where you can go back and watch some old data via the tape and watch something that is extremely strong out of the open, keep your eyes on the time of sales, and then watch something that is extremely weak on the open, keep your eye on the time and sales, and then watch something that moves sideways for about 45 minutes, okay? And that's gonna help you identify some signals of strength and when buyers and sellers are actually stepping in. There was a prime example of Palantir last week when Neil and I were both short and it wasn't breaking down. I got out of my short position and that allowed me to step in and participate with a buyer who just continuously kept stepping in. And how did I identify that outside of price action? Was the time of sales, okay? So that's what I really did, is just continuous hours. If there's anything that takes the longest amount of time to really hone in, I think it's just the tape, because there's so much of it that is essentially noise and we classify as the matrix, okay? Aside from that, hopefully that helps you out, and that's what really helped me out. See, now we'll go over this example. You see that strong uptick, and you can see everything. So at the ask and above the ask is starting to come into play, and that's when you look for signs of strength. And if you see, if we head in, so for example, if we run into this 122.15 level and we see sellers step in on the tape at the bid and below the bid right away, then you can classify that and look at it as some form of defense, okay? And if it continuously happens and you notice a resistance zone or a support level in which the support level you see the opposite of what I was just referring to, then you can break through some, then that's when you look, hey, we have a buyer who's continuously stepping in at this zone. Let's post up, let's see if we can get involved in that area and then take the potential trade. But for me personally, there's a time and a place for, like most things in life, for when you really, really want to focus on the tape.
Get it, man. Shout out to Legend League. All right, BlackBerry into another high of day, 558 now. On this one, let's see, man. Let's see if this one works into the, well, we have to look at the $0.75 before we can start talking about the whole dollar. But good move up, still holding some shares, looking for the continuation on BlackBerry, up almost 15% now, 14.75, 14 4/5. It goes back and forth. New trade in at FLWS, looking for a hold up here at the 10 EMA on the 5. Last time around, we did hold up at the 10 EMA. I've given it to a little bit below the $0.50. High of the day is 71 pennies on FLWS. It's not a volume king, but for whatever reason, the spread is pretty tight on this one. 1 penny, 2 pennies at the most, despite the fact that it's only done about 1.8 million shares on the day. There goes BlackBerry into 560. Good look on the berry here, man. Let's see if we're going to take some out. I'm going to post a little bit here at the third, a little bit less than third, 2/3 of a dollar, excuse me. So that's what I'm looking at there. And there goes FLWS, Joey. Finally, freaking hell. All right, there we go. Let's take some out there. Good. We took out our 1R pretty quickly. 1R for me on FLWS was 69. It popped up in the 70. It's not above the high of the day. That's 72 pennies. Looking for continuation. Still holding here. 2R for me, 79. Let's go ahead and post 4.79 in case we do get up there on FLWS. Look, again, not the volume king. Certainly not. Still below 2 million shares, 1.91 million. But holding technically, I mean, I don't mean technically like in the way that people talk. I mean, it's holding up well on technicals. And this is kind of what I mean by that. That green line will always be the 10 EMA on the 5 on my charts, especially the black ones, and definitely looking for that level to hold up. So FLWS in focus.
Yeah, it's crazy. I don't even know what it means, man.
I explained to you what bottling means last week. I very much, oh, I didn't even have any of this, bro. Keep it down, Ram. Bottling is like screwing up in British parlance. Like when you bottle something means you screwed it up.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So he's asking, Joe, did Sharif bring a water? I hate you, Adam, man. I hate this guy, bro. Like, how do we block this guy? I like him, though. That's the thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Can't block him.
Oh, man.
Can't block him.
You can't block him. Well, he hasn't done anything, number one. Number two, I actually like the guy. Number three, I follow him on the gram, so I'm constantly
following
seeing
him
what
on
this
he's
guy's
up to.
doing.
Yeah.
Shout out to Adam, he's making me chuckle. BlackBerry into another high of day. 561, we're waiting at 63 just to test the water there. Arsenal bottle of tears. I hate you guys, oh man. I knew that this was gonna be the case today. I didn't even want to come into work, man. I'm like, no, maybe I'll come in like on a less hotly contested day, I guess. I don't know what to say.
Yeah.
Continuing to watch here, Joey. FLWS, good look. Looking for the move above the high of day. We still haven't got that. There's a high of day. We're in at 72. We're looking for continuation now. This one has a tendency, Fabian, to price spike up pretty aggressively. It did that where between 60 to 70. Now we're at the high of the day. We know that we held up here last time because, well, that's the high of the day. So they're certainly selling here. We can't shake the sellers at 72. Continuing to watch. Nothing 73 related has come up on the time and sales on the left. So we're waiting for that move. I'm looking at wetting the beak at 79, Joey. That's too far for me.
Good stuff. I like hearing that, brother. FLWS working out for you. Grant, no, we're not, brother. Again, I just noticed, so just going through my stats over the past couple of months since the conflict started, is just like, all right, if this stuff goes on, then it's just for me sit on the hands for a little bit, wait for a high quality opportunity, and then we can take advantage of that as the market is slowly curling over. You have that bounce right into VWAP, and then you're starting to reject, but there's nothing that I see. It's like, okay, this is a good time to get involved. Hindsight being 2020, but then you're also at risk just due to the fact that a headline steps in and then off to the races you go, and next thing you know, you're going to test the pre-market high and the high of the day. But I don't think that's going to be the narrative on today's session. We've had multiple updates. We can't, unfortunately, just go up all the time. Netflix holding up here, though. I like this. So who's, someone was talking about this not too long ago.
You like that exchange that I sent you there, Joey? This guy responds back, I like Josh Hawley. I'm like, I'm not sending you this for Josh Hawley.
Yeah, but brother,
like, I was sending it to you for the Netflix thing.
Yeah, I know, but I still like, I like what he's getting at.
So,
you know
so do I.
Yeah, you know what I mean? And I like Josh Hawley because he presses.
Presses hard.
Hard, man. Hard. I like Josh Hawley. All right, DJ, how old is Joe today? Okay, his age was off last Friday by a wide margin.
I'm confused.
Yeah, I don't know how.
Why are you laughing, Ram? Do you understand what the joke is?
Yeah, exactly. I don't even understand what's going on. Like, at the end of the day, I don't think I'm going to say the wrong age, essentially. Okay, well, let me put it to you this way.
Go ahead, Joey.
Joe said
I'm 3 days older than what I
Snapchat.
was the last time we mentioned it, so, or 4 days older, so, right?
Say that one more time.
I'm 4 days older than when we were talking about my age.
Yes,
right?
That's a fact.
So,
but Ram said it has something to do with Snapchat, Joey.
Oh, why? Because I was 3 years off of when I had Snapchat?
So Joey said he had.
Fact-check me. I was like, yeah, I was
let
like
me talk,
16,
Joe.
17 when I had it.
Yo, you're interrupting
like,
Ram, bro.
I can't even hear her.
That's your fault.
That's a very dangerous
I can't even hear her. What's she saying? I still can't hear you. No,
everything is happening all at once here. There goes FLWS into the area high. I wet the beak. We're still holding out for 2R at 79, but FLWS is on its horse here, and it could see 5, right? You get into that $0.75, you know, you dally with it, dilly-dally a little bit there, Joey, and then all of a sudden, you find yourself at that whole dollar level. So put out those profit takers, because you don't know if it's going to be there at any in any one area for a prolonged period of time. So put out those profit takers. Showtime, cut the crap.
What's Showtime?
Yeah. He's talking to you, Joey.
Yeah, I know.
Everybody's
giving me hit, man.
Right? Because
why? Because it was like how many years ago I got this stuff? Like, come on, man. I was in a variance, like a little bit of a wide range. That's what happens when you get a little bit older, man. It's like plus minus 4 or 5ve years, right?
Plus or minus 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
Bro, what are you talking about here?
That's
like,
what I'm talking about.
Oh man,
like,
I'm
not as
plus
accurate.
or minus 6 months is as much as we're gonna give you.
Something that happened like literally 15 years ago.
Yeah, you can't say 4 or 5 years, 15 years. That's like half a decade.
That's a third.
That's like half of the decade right there.
Yeah,
we're not going to be able to accept that.
Okay, that's fair, man. That's fair. If you can't accept it, that's it. Hold on, go. What's going there? Hold on, let me talk about something quick here, all right? Netflix, there's Netflix. I'm not even going to read the comments right now. 93.89, Netflix is holding up. Maybe we can find a potential long. We are quite extended from the volume-weighted average price. Let's get into a little bit more detail here. Oh, I like this. If this holds up, maybe we can find a potential position here on NFLX.
There goes BlackBerry again into another area high. Well, high of day. 563. We're looking for a little bit more here on the berry. It's looking real good, but let's be honest about it. We get into these levels, we can't start taking out levels willy-nilly here because we're kind of in no man's land. I need to see a $0.75 rejection to say, let me take out the position here, or if we clear the $0.75 and clear it quite decisively, I'm looking for that whole dollar. Just looking at some different headlines coming in, nothing big there. Continuing to watch, and there goes FLWS, Joe. It missed my out by 1 penny, 477 high. I'm waiting at 488. What do we have on this thing? 58. Not bad. I'm going to be looking for a little bit more here, man. If FLWS pulls back in, as it did last time, into the 10 EMA and holds, I'm going to add into the position, okay? So that's what I'm looking at there. Casey keeps saying ENVB, and she's absolutely right. Shout out to Casey, 526. Guys, ENVB is making another move. Here it is. This is the double, you could even argue a triple top here from the 11 o'clock candle to the loss of the level at 11:10, so 3 5-minute candles. The highest print of those three goes to 66. Here we are at 59. We're holding VWAP. I looked over to the Neil to find out how much this is going to cost me, and it was like way more than I wanted to spend. I'm a pretty frugal guy. So 466 area high, current bar high though, 59. We clear this level, then we could squeeze into 5. But take a gander at what we did at 5. From 9:30 a.m. to 10 a.m., there was no closing print above $5. There was wicks, but there was no closing print. That has to mean something to you, okay? Why did it do that? What's setting up there that caused it to do that? All these topping tail candles. Well, to me, it means one thing and one thing only, that the sellers were just as convicted in their position, in their trade, as the longs were, and they prevented this one from closing above 5. That's what that means to me, and that means that we need to decisively clear some of the sellers there before I'd feel comfortable taking this pretty aggressively above 5. CUE, almost back into the high of the day. This one is not great on volume, just got to be straight up with you, but the spread right now is less than a penny, okay? It's about 8/7 of a penny. Okay, 7/8, excuse me, of a penny. 84.92 high. It looks like we're right about to get into that high of the day again. That's CUE. Good look there. Looking for FWS, and there is 2R Joe on FLWS into 79. That's at the high of the day. We're looking now for 5 on FLWS. Pack your patience. And the 10 EMA on the 5, by the way, is now in the mid-60s. So should we drop, that is something you could consider, whether or not to get in more at the 10 EMA on the 5 on FLWS. What are you thinking about, brother?
Listen to what Mr. Leahy has got to say here. Just keeping an eye on the chat and see what everybody's up to. Nonetheless, guys, there was a little bit of a rebound. Netflix is bouncing. I got my eye on some small cap names, but just the way that we're kind of churning around and just essentially just below the volume weighted average price, I don't find anything overly attractive. There is some pullbacks here that, I mean, if we don't take, they probably will end up working out, unfortunately. But as for the NASDAQ, we can play the break of this pivot low. Nice indecision print off of this level. You have the VWAP rejection, and then sure enough, you come right into this 57.35 level. Let's hold up there and see what we got. But there is still some selling pressure stepping in, and I think that has to be taken into consideration to see if we're continuing. Who is it, Adam James?
Put it up, Assassino.
What's this guy
Put
doing,
it up, man. This guy is too much. Look at this, Joey. Look at this, Joey. New poll.
Wow.
Which team has more of a chance of ever winning a title again before we are all dead? 1, that's bleak, bro. 1, Arsenal FC, or 2, the Toronto Maple Leafs? I'm going to go ahead and say Arsenal, man, because I don't think we've bottled it quite yet. We're tied on points with you, assuming you win the game in hand that you have, right? We're going to get a lot of players back. I think Saka's coming back pretty soon. I think Jurrien Timber's coming back pretty soon. We're not going to see Mikel Mourinho before the end of the year. I think Calafiore is also back, so that Hinakapié mascara concoction that they've been playing for whatever reason can take a backseat.
Are you ready for my spiel on the Toronto
You're going to
Maple
go
Leafs?
ahead and say any team but the Toronto Maple Leafs. I know that because you're pretty emotional person when it comes to them. You've been hurt too many times.
Way
right?
too many times,
Way too
man.
many times.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, no, it's important. No, in all reality,
That girlfriend in university you always went back to, even though you probably shouldn't have.
No, I can't say that happened.
No?
Man.
Lies.
I swear,
Lies.
dude. Hannah, I swear, man. It sounded like you were speaking from your own experiences there, Sheree.
Me?
Yeah.
Me?
Yeah, you.
You talking about me?
Yeah, I'm talking about you.
Talking about
no,
me, that's
nonetheless,
crazy.
man, it was the lost decade in the Leafs. You lose your second best player, essentially. He's gone to Vegas Golden Knights. Austin Matthews signed until 2028. There's just no dogs on the team, essentially, for me. They got to rebuild, and I was telling Neil this, you got to start from the back end and then move forward, all right? We have no bona fide number one defenseman, and we don't really know if we're coming or going from a goalie standpoint. So, yeah, it's not too good of a look. Are they doing a rebuild? No, retool more or less. But, yeah, I mean...
They've been retooling for many years.
Well, they weren't, right? Like, they had the core 5 individuals on the team, but they could just never get past the second round. They weren't dogs.
Before we go to Adara, guys, KC 526. New profile picture and all. She's dropping 10 Trader TV Live YouTube memberships in the chat. Very generous woman, as she typically is. As we know, Casey is definitely one of the OG small cap traders. If you're newer, you're interested in small caps, there's a couple of people, there's more than a couple, there's several people in the chat you should be aware of. KC526 is certainly one of them. Look out for Cool Brioche, Grunfeld, Bovin, Scott. There's a lot of different small cap traders. I know I'm missing some, and I don't mean to leave anybody out. But for those who got gifted the memberships, Team PJCT, Elated Trader, Helms Biff, Anon Purse, Emethel something or other, Pembroke Jones, Tall Hadarantus, just look in the chat to see if you guys are one of the people who got a free Trader TV Live membership as a result of KC526. If you are, go on over to the YouTube homepage right here for Trader TV Live. This is typically what you see when you go to the YouTube homepage. Click posts, mosey on down to where it says members only. There's the new morning note, guys. I need to show you guys this. This is a new morning note. We're not focusing on the story as much anymore. That only makes up 1/3 of the summary. So the story's at the top. You're going to get your technicals in the middle. So if you don't want to be told how to trade, you just want the levels. There you are right there, and it explains what we're looking at. It looks at moving averages, RSIs as well. And then you've got the trading plan. This is telling you exactly what to look out for. Stop.
Bro, did you see that? Did you see that?
He's showing me pictures of Sydney Sweeney while I'm trying to do this thing over here. Yeah, Ram, come get your boy. Anyway, so the trade plan at the bottom, the technicals in the middle, and the story at the top. That's a new revamped morning note, guys. Hopefully you'll be able to make some improvements on this, and I'd love some feedback from you guys. Anything that you guys want to see, I'm all ears. And guess what, Joey?
What's up?
Just guess what, Joey?
It's gone.
There goes FLWS into 489. 485 is where we took the print there. Watch out for $5. FLWS is on its horse. Adara's at the big desk with happening now, and Neil's got his lesson of the day.
Here's the market kind of consolidating here in the middle of the range. We're very far, I would say, at this point removed from that intraday high, but we're also above that intraday and pre-market low right now, just kind of chopping around as the market digests a series of headlines on oil. USO, on the other hand, is actually, decently near this intraday high. It's a little bit far removed here from that pre-market high. What happened here with USO is a series of headlines when it comes to the situation in the Middle East with President Trump and Iran. President Trump reportedly saying that the ceasefire will expire on Wednesday between the U.S. and Iran. He said that if they can't make a deal by that time. He's willing to have some bombs, I guess, happen in Iran. He furthermore added that the Strait of Hormuz is not going to be open until a deal is struck with Iran and the U.S. TSLA is going to be on watch, one of many names that's reporting earnings this week. They're reporting after the bell on Wednesday, and they also, I guess ahead of this earnings report, announced they're going to be expanding their robo-taxi reach in a couple other cities in Texas. Then we've got BYND. There is a story for this. I'm not sure if this is why this is moving, but Beyond Meat does have some kind of headline that could be associated with it. Wall Street Journal reporting around 11 a.m. today that U.S. DOJ, the Justice Department, is criminally investigating beef companies. President Trump already called for this probe, so this isn't like a brand new thing. We already heard that meat packers are being accused of price manipulation, but BYND potentially benefiting from the fact that this investigation has, I guess, now officially taken place. But you know what else is going to be officially taking place, guys? Neil's lesson of the day. Because we will never run out of weird transitions into this lesson, and this lesson will never run out of awesome things to teach us. So, Neil, are you looking at Beyond Meat? Tell us the truth.
How can you not look at Beyond Meat? I have to. I'm contractually obliged to check this out if it does a $1 fail. That said, this isn't the lesson of the day. At some point, we're going to run out of ideas, but not today. I think today was an example of, well, you heard Joe say, like, it's maybe a little bit choppy, a little bit weird would be the morning. Like, it just felt like we had USO come in and coming off of what was a pretty insane Friday for oil futures, and then we gap right back up to the same levels. I don't know that I was expecting us to be right where we started and not do much. Like, there was a small drop, and now we're trending higher to get the shorts back in. So it was a really choppy-ish kind of day. And I think sometimes if you can identify that maybe it's not feeling that directional for you, the idea of being able to, like, flip around in a stock, like, find something which is you have a read on it and be willing to go both directions can be advantageous. Because I would make the argument that when I was trading silver, I didn't do enough of that. Like, at the open, I waited for it to do like a trend break. Like, I wanted to fade this one, to wait for a trend break to come in. And then when it got back through VWAP, all of a sudden everything was looking like it was going, USO made a bit of a turn off of the volume weighted average price. So I felt that was going down. So we'll flip into a long. But then there was one small mistake, and it was right. I'm not thinking that I'm going to flip at the highs. Like, that's asking a lot, because at that point you want to give it a chance to continue the longer trend and maybe continue higher. Like, give it a chance that this is right. You know what I mean? Like, there's your higher low, higher low, higher low. It's pretty obvious where the fail is, because now that I've drawn this. But you want to give it a chance that you're showing a little bit of that strength above VWAP, and you can continue the long when you go from short to long. But if the game you decide to play, or any trader, or myself, in this particular myself, if I've decided that, hey, if we're just dancing around, I'm going to be willing to go both directions here, it's one thing to get out of the long, but I've got to have the short, right? Like, if that's part of the thesis, that I'm willing to get out of the short and flip into the long and not reel the short here, well, it turns back into a short, then just trade it that way off VWAP. And if I just keep going back and forth with scalp trades, that can accomplish the same thing as having one monster all day long. That's just how it works, easily. So I think if you identify the kind of market you're in and can be right, that's almost a large portion of the game. And really, I remember having a conversation with some of the boys in the AVGO group, and this was years ago, and they used to say that one of the golden goose would be they have these different programs that they run, let's just say. It's like this strategy, like A, B, C, D, E, and F. And if you could predetermine the type of day, then you'd know which ones to focus on. And the earlier that you could figure out, oh, it's a pretty choppy day in the market, we want to lean on these strategies. Well, if you identify correctly that, hey, flipping back and forth is going to make sense because we're not really continuing in either direction, then once you make that determination, you want to stick with it. Because if you end up being right, like, the value is you can be on the same stock, and it can be even better in some ways in capturing just one long, big move. Like, you look at one big, long upward trend, now you get like a few flips, like flip long, flip short, if you could catch a flip long there, but then stay short at VWAP. And maybe this afternoon it starts putting in some higher lows and something like this happens and maybe I'm long off of VWAP into a high of the day. If that's the kind of day it is, you can't sit there holding, hoping that it's gonna have the volatility from the day before. Sometimes in an inside day, the best you could do is recognize that it's there and take what you can out of it. And it might mean, hey, I'm not going to make as much if I don't reverse position here and start working with the other direction and then be willing to come back the other way. Because there's lots of ways that you can trade, and they don't always involve, okay, well, this is trending up. I'm just going to buy every single dip and hold on to a piece and just do that all day. You might not get that opportunity. And if you could either just, if that's your thing, and maybe you don't trade much on a choppy day, or you could maybe lean into something which isn't normal, because I don't usually flip around that much on a stock. Like I'll be like, this is relatively strong, I like the longs. This is relatively weak, I like the short. That's typically how I would trade, but not today. Today, flipping around a little bit made some sense. I just wish I'd done it 1 or 2 more times. I wish I could tell you how this lamb is. I haven't had it yet, but it's definitely looking pretty tasty, and it looks like lamb to me. I haven't even opened this up, but I'm gonna say we actually got lamb, and I'm very excited to taste how that is going to go. But good luck on the rest of your day trading. If we end up with an inside day, sometimes you have to accept it and trade as such.
Excellent information, as is typically the case with Neil and his lesson of the day. We thank him very much for that. Neil, have you bought lamb lately at the your favorite store there, Farm Boy?
You know what? It's becoming a little bit more expensive.
Well, okay,
Farm Boy, that is.
Kind of, or Farm Boy in general is becoming more expensive. That was my observation. But what I was going to talk to you about was lamb. My observation now, and anybody in Canada in the chat, if you can either like confirm or deny this, dude, it is getting pretty close between beef and lamb. In fact, I saw some deals on lamb when I went shopping on Thursday last week that on a pound for pound basis, gram for gram for us.
Oh, okay.
Cheaper. Lamb is cheaper than beef.
Okay.
Not cheaper than veal. Veal typically still a bit more expensive.
Had veal.
Has anybody else encountered this? Am I on my own, or am I just like seeing things? So, especially if you're from Canada, because I don't think it's dollars to dollars the same in the States. I think some things are still a little bit cheaper.
I want to
beyond lamb. No. We're not going to do beyond lamb.
We're not getting into all of that. I want to touch on this here momentarily. Yeah, I had veal actually over the weekend.
You did, eh?
Yeah, it was very good. Aside from that, I like what you're looking at because there was that base being formed and then you had that slow curl over. You're a couple points higher. This is going to be a key inflection point. Like if it breaks through that pivot, maybe the market's going to continue to climb higher. There's NVDA doing so. Trendline break, you were right. It broke quite a while ago. We draw that base again, you sit on it, you hold that 390.5 mark, and then off to the races you go. Same narrative here on the TQQQs. Let's see if we're going to get enough volume and enough strength in order for us to continue this climb. You can see as we're at that lunchtime hour, volume tends to drop off, but a nice strong rebound. Double bottom on NVDA as well. Let's see if AMD is going to be that next culprit there, Sharif.
All right, brother. Good look. Holding here. BlackBerry, day high, 571. We have 569. Coming back down now to the 10 EMA on the 5, losing 60 pennies. We're in at 39, so we've got a nice buffer. That isn't the point. The point is, do I add into this level? Look what it did last time. It breached the 10 EMA. So, just looking at, historical pullback here, this was a 4 red candle pullback on the 5. It ended up being a money fill in between the 10 and the 20 moving averages. Does that mean it's going to happen again? But what I'm looking for is this going to be as deep of a retracement? What I mean by that is as follows. We got a 4 candle pullback here. We're on a 3 candle pullback here. If the subsequent candle after this 1210, so the 1215 candle on the 5, breaches current candle high, then I would have a bias that we're not going to have a 4 candle pullback, in which case, and I get in. I'm going to continue to watch here. I think BlackBerry either gets up into $0.75 or gets up into 6. Let's take a quick look here at some wider technicals, a 4-hour. No, we're not even close, so we got to zoom out a lot more on the daily here. Let's see. Whoa. Neil, have you looked at this? We haven't been at these levels since over a year on BlackBerry. This is like 52-week high. The last time we were up at these levels was February of 25. So this is definitely a 52-week high. Moreover, there was that very clear area of resistance through all of 2025 when it lost it in mid to early Feb of $5 that we couldn't shake. Now we're above it substantially, 571. So BlackBerry, interesting range here on the berry. Definitely like a 3 1/4. You want to say 3 to 3 1/4 support, and definitely 5 resistance, right? Now this area we're going to have to contend with here, which is the week of February 18th, pardon me. That's when we made that, let's just say $6.50 high. The exact level was 647. Lotto 649, just imagine. You remember that old commercial there? They tried to lure you into buying lottery.
Well, I don't think they need to lure. It's not that hard to lure me in with a good.
This guy, bro. All right, man. All right, we're getting a hold up here. Assassino on the 10 EMA on the 5, but it still hasn't breached prior bar high. If it breaches prior bar high and does exactly what it just did right there, hold up at the 10, I'm going to add into the BlackBerry position, albeit, closer to the highs. That will fundamentally change my cost basis, but we're going to keep a close eye on this one. New candle just opened up on BlackBerry, 12:15 candle now. I'm not looking at the 12:10 candle high because that almost has no body whatsoever. I'm looking at the 12:05 bar high, the high of which is 562. It gets into 563, your boy's buying. So, continuing to watch at FLWS, also Joey, dipping back into the 10 EMA on the 5. I've got a bias, this one touches 3. If it gets into, 5. If it gets into 5, we're probably going to take off the position, but we're going to pack the patience. Q, back to VWAP, says Cool Brioche. My man Cool Brioche, keeping his eye on the Q. This is also an interesting area of previous area of technical resistance, now possibly support. Cool Brioche, take a look at that 78 penny area. Multiple rejections there earlier on, 1045, 1050. We come back in. We're generally holding it. So this could be an interesting area here, irrespective of the volume-weighted average price, which is at about 76 pennies. Oh, no. Yeah. Casey, 526. I love how she calls me Uncle.
Yeah, that's crazy, man.
Yeah, she's been calling me that for a minute.
All right.
Shout out to Casey. $10 super chat. Uncle Sheriff, PBM, where's your entry? Let's take a quick look. PBM. I saw this one. She's been talking about it as well. Let's take a quick look here at PBM. Joey, see exactly how we would get in on this.
Yes, sir.
Yes, this one. Okay, Case. Here's what I see. That's that lower high trend. I'm choosing to select it from here on the 4 a.m. candle only because that's where the closing print was. I didn't want to use the wick high. Let me throw in the ticker. Okay. So right away, I start saying to myself, how about those sellers that were selling at 815 and 820? And the volume there, Case, relatively speaking, was pretty big. Look at the volume candles right around that area high into 16 relative to all the other volume candles. I mean, that's obviously a pronounced area. So there was a lot of volume happening between 805 to about 825, so for a period of 20 minutes. First and foremost, are we above the 1015 high? That high there is 1483. What's the current bar high? 1499. So we're rejecting 15, but we breach the 1015 area high. So if we get in above 15. So this one's tough. Yeah, this one is tough only because if you get in, even if it closes above 15 on a closing basis, you still have that double top to contend with at 16. So it may not be what you want to hear, but I would need a move above that 815, 820 high into 16 and change on a closing basis, Case, before I weasel in, knowing full well that we will still have to deal with these sellers. Look how many shares traded hands here at 4 in the dang morning. Far more than traded during regular trading hours, man. 526,000, 161,000, 169,000. Just to give you by way of example, look at prior bar. Prior bar, we did 124,000. Current bar has 126. So certainly a lot of volume, more volume, in fact, at 4 a.m. than done now. So the Case, I'm going to have to say my conservative style takes me on a closing move above 16. That's how I get in. Otherwise, I feel like there's just going to be way too much selling pressure of shorts and or bag holders that are going to be holding at this level. I hope that helps, and I hope you print. multiple storms, as she typically does.
All right, brother. Yeah, there's a couple things that, good luck, Casey. Hopefully everything works out for you. Now, guys, there's a couple names that I want to go over here, and we'll take a look at the options chain. We've seen AMD has been strong as of late. Now at a key support level, I'm curious to see if we're going to break down. I don't see anything substantial on the call side, but what we will do momentarily is look at some of the put activity. But we're starting to see this shelf being formed, that indecision print acting as somewhat stopping volume. But as the rest of the market climbed back to VWAP, I think it was just too much of a stretch for AMD. Right, there was like a 5-point move that it needed in order for it to just get back there. We know that the volatility is up, but not substantially. We're sitting at 61.5% roughly. But what I do want to see if we can identify a potential low on the weekly, and that's going to be probably around that 265 mark. We'll pull this back up and see if we can see anything from a daily perspective, because I think that's going to be a massive teller. I mean, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Out of 15 days, you have 2 red ones. Okay, now this is going to be the 3rd one out of 16 sessions. So that's a massive run that AMD has been off of those lows, a low of 191, and then all the way down to, all the way up to 278. That's 43% off of the lows when we've seen as one of its competitors, NVDA, only being up around 17% or so. Even though this is a nice bounce, if buyers are stepping in, then by all means, I want to start to participate, but you get 21%. You get double the amount of return in the same period of time in AMD than what you got here on NVDA. All right, so we'll continue to monitor the options chain to see if there's potential floors, but I just think we went up too quick, too fast. Does that mean anything? No, more people are going to get probably squeezed out, but at the end of the day, what do we typically see? The faster you go up, what goes up typically comes down, and sometimes it gets a little bit uglier. I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, and nor do I want that to happen, but I mean, isn't that the nature of the beast? All right, guys. $20 super chat. Wolf of Wall Street. Nothing says romantic investment like being a flower squeeze place. Wolf FLWS. Shorts getting crushed. 40% short flow while V-Day panic buying hasn't started. Ready to make it rain. Petals are watched. The bouquet wilt. All right. There you go. I mean, I was actually looking at this this morning. Let's pull. Yeah. Let's pull this name up here. FLWS. Hold on. FLWS. There you go, flowers.com. And a nice squeeze, $4. Same thing, right? Market rally. But I think this narrative is a little bit different. 66% off of those lows, $2.89. And then off to the races it goes. So a massive squeeze. You can take a look at it from an intraday standpoint. I mean, we're on the 5-minute time frame, and you can see that we're running into liquidity issues, but you're having multiple sessions where it's just a nice steady move higher. Now, if we head over to the 1 minute, big time liquidity issues, right? Like you can see out of the gate, where you typically see the most volume, it takes some time for this to really start to kick in. You have a lot of algorithmic trading. The liquidity isn't there, but if you're being involved or you're swing trading this, I just think it's more or less a more difficult vehicle to trade from an intraday perspective due to the liquidity issues. So let's keep that in mind. Let's keep an eye on AMDL. I haven't taken anything this whole midday show because I don't see anything. We're just chopping around. So what am I going to put that mental taxation on myself just because I don't see anything? Yeah, exactly. I don't need that. We are rejecting VWAP, so if anything, I might think a short here on NVDA or the TQQQs right below the volume weighted average price.
Okay. Shout out to Cool Brio. She's talking about FGI. Shout out to, who's that? Who's that? Hangry Wife, yes. Calling out WLDS. So I'm 0 for 2 on WLDS. It's my biggest loser on the day. Piece of crap. But I was saying to Hangry, I'm like, I like the higher lows, certainly. You can very easily see that. But I have trauma, unsettled trauma through the break of 3 that failed miserably into 3 1/4. Now, you could make the argument we keep rejecting right around the same area. I mean, here's what I'm trying to say. Look at these closing prints at 9 a.m. and 9:05, right at 3:10. Look at these closing prints at 11:20 and 11:25, right at 3:10. The wicks on the latest area high don't go as high as the pre-market. That's fine. But this could be sort of a weird looking flat top break. Let's look at the 15. It may even look more flat top breakish, yes, at around the 15, where you can kind of keep seeing that resistance out to 3 come in all the while you've got higher lows. That's the ascending wedge pattern, right? So WLDS could be in focus here. The problem with this one is I have to suffer through bamboozlement on it, right? So if I get in here, if I was to get in at 260s where it's at right now, I'd have to give it all the way to this 1155 candle low, the low of which is 233. So that's going to factor into how many shares I can take because I'm not going to adjust my stop, right? My stop placement is one of those ones where, one of those variables, what I say, really be as inflexible as possible when it comes to your stop placement. Be more flexible with your share size than with your stop placement. And the reason is because the latter, as opposed to the former, could get you out of the trade prematurely and you could realize nothing. Whereas if you size down, because you have to give your stop a bit more room, and the trade goes your way, you don't get stopped out prematurely, it goes your way, you get something rather than being negative. So that is one thing that I've really tried to kind of harp on a little bit more. Size down, be as inflexible as you can be with your stop and more flexible with your share size. It's not for everybody, it's for me. That's what I'm keeping my eye on here. WLDS, we can, if I was to get in here, let's just go with my risk parameter. Let's figure this out. WLDS, risk that many shares, I have to give it to this area low, so that's 232. So what would that give me there? All right, well, what are we topping out here at? We're topping out at mid 270s essentially. Let's load this bad boy up. I'm still interested in adding on BlackBerry, by the way. I haven't added quite yet, but I'm interested. Let's load up. I have 2 FLWS screens here, so let's load up WLDS on the NQ, 271. Let's see what the selling looks like here. It's pretty aggressive selling. Let's load this one up on the 5-second chart so I can get a better look at this one. This one's area of support and resistance quite locally. I can definitely see there's a 70 seller here. No question about that. 70, 71 seller, we can't shake. It looks great, says Nick W. Yeah, it does look great, but you know how I feel about these ones, man, that make area highs then just drop all the way back down. That's why I'm being hesitant about this. All right, if you want a tighter stop, I wouldn't suggest this trade, but hey, prior bar low on WLDS takes you to 248, which is not that much lower, or sorry, that much higher than the 232 that I'm talking about. Here's 271. This is where they were selling last time. There's 72. We're above prior bar high now. 271 was prior bar high, so 272 takes us into another area high, but there's no continuation. At least not yet. So yeah, current or prior bar low 248. I'm gonna steer clear of this one until it gets above 3. If it's got the juice at $3 to take out some levels, I'll be a participant, but for now, I'm gonna steer clear. BlackBerry is holding up at the 10. It's not putting any new area highs. So as soon as this one does put some new area highs, I'm talking about, 62, 63, I'm gonna add into this position. What do we got? We got 39. So we're gonna add small here just to, get the reps in and to see if we can retest that 571 high, maybe even better. The reason I'm waiting for 63 is because I need to start seeing new highs. And we haven't been above that level since the candle, the topping till at 12 o'clock. So here's 62. That would bring us above the 1205 bar high. So it's looking good here for the berry, but it's got to be a little bit more. We need 63, 64. I'm going to punch into this position, small share size, Joey, at that level just to get the reps. What's up?
Good stuff. Yeah, I wanted to step in here quick as AMD is really starting to pick up its momentum to the downside, guys. We had that shelf that was being formed, and as the overall market was starting to curl over, you had zero participation on AMD's behalf. So now you're breaking through, and then as you're punching through the support levels, you're starting to see the uptick in volume. What can we classify this as? Essentially a genuine move, all right? So when we're breaking through key levels, that would have been a good time. I would have loved to show you guys the example of looking at the time of sales, because we were talking about that what Digger Devil is essentially Where are we looking at the tape? When are we focusing? When is the volume stepping in? And I think that's a really, really key time in which we can really hone in on our skills and just really kind of get better at reading the tape, as there's no stopping growing here in the overall market, right? AMD is going to explode. In which direction to the downside? I think that's going to be the case. I mean, the market, it's so choppy right now. You want to try to catch the lower end of the range, but I don't know. I'm just not getting feels. It's like, okay, if I'm thinking shortage decides to uptick, we quite didn't get back to the volume-weighted average price and curl over. You have that U shape and that inverse turtle shell essentially going on right now and that support level. But what there is right here is consistent. It's like, okay, you're forming those lower lows, but then on the back side of that trend, you have those higher lows, and then you start to curl over. But AMD looking weak. If there's a 5-minute indecision print, this is where you would want to look for this specific signal, this 5-minute candle to hold up. But one thing to note is that same thing with Tesla. This is performing a little bit better. We have the volume-weighted average price really hugging the price action here today. So, I mean, it's a tougher one with this headline sensitivity. Wednesday with a deadline from Donald Trump. I think we're going to see this type of price action maintain and stay within the market until we get some form of a deal, and then maybe we can start to climb a little bit higher. Massive green streak going on.
Massive.
Yeah, massive, man, massive. So we'll be patient and wait for something to fall into our lap. I mentioned before, statistically speaking, not my best style of market. And with that being said, I have no issues with sitting on my hands, just knowing that this isn't my style of price of PA there, Sharif.
Get it, Joey.
Yeah.
All right. Some things to update you on. I'm giving WDS the prior bar low, which is 263. So I've got it a little bit below that. I'm taking a really small share size here because this one, I'm already negative on it. So I can't go more negative on this one. I'm positive on the day, but negative on WLDS. So I'm going to give this one super tight stop. It's going to have to hold the current bar low. What's the level now? 73. Can we get a little bit more? 74. I'm looking for prints at 78 for the first beak wetter. Let's see what happens there. Separately, FLWS could be an add here. The volume has really dropped off a cliff. It's not... There's just almost no volume here, so I'm hesitant to add. Lastly, BlackBerry, it breached prior bar high, and it tested that 563 high on the 1225 bar on the 5-minute chart, and now we have a lower high as well. So this one continues to hold up at the 10, BlackBerry that is, but it doesn't really have the buyers right now to step up and to take us into the high of the day. So I'm not going to add here, okay? I may add later into BlackBerry. I'm thinking maybe around 550. 550 looks like a good level of support. If I'm being honest, let's have a quick look here at the $0.50. Look at that initial area of rejection. You consolidate there again on a 2-3 candle basis. The fourth, the 1130 candle, takes us above that on a decisive basis. And, you know, there we go. So still holding at the 10, but not showing me what I need to see in order to add into the position, and that's fine. We don't have to add right now. And FLWS, the reason I was saying that, you know, the volume's dropping off a cliff is because it kind of is, man. The prior bar, the 1225 bar, the one that we just closed, has less than 3,000 shares. What the helly? 2,984 shares. The one before that had 18,000, so a little bit better. Current bar has got 6. So this bar, okay, maybe the volume is picking up again. I don't know. But FLWS, not the right time for me to add, quite frankly, but keeping a close eye on it. What's going on? Why
I'm just.
I thought you were amped.
Yeah. No. I'm not. I don't have anything going on.
What was the weekend like?
Rainy.
Okay. Yes, I realized the weather. I was there. But how was your weekend?
Short.
Short. Yeah. Well, that's always the case, brother.
UFC Winnipeg though last weekend.
Last weekend.
Yeah.
That was Winnipeg?
Winterpeg, yeah.
Winterpeg.
Yeah, UFC
right.
Winnipeg. Both the main events, my boy Charles Air Jourdain, he squeaked out a victory somehow. I mean, he didn't win, but the judges ruled it in his favor.
How'd they do that? So
I mean, it was probably like the home. Pardon me?
They got what?
Yeah. I mean, and at the end of the day, our boy, proper Mike Malott, knocked out Gilbert Burns with a nice right hook. Really class act there. Did someone say Winnipeg? Yes, I am that.
Yo, you see the card in Egypt, man? The
yeah,
card
we were talking
Egypt's
about that one.
Gonna be wild.
Who's on it?
You got, of course, the heavyweight champion of the world. We got Usyk.
Oh,
on
yeah,
there.
yeah,
But
versus that
the
guy.
fighter that I want to see is a fighter from England, Hamza Shiraz.
Okay.
This guy, I think, guys, correct me if I'm wrong, he's super welterweight, 154. The dude's 6'3".
Oh, is that
He's
buddy?
hurting everybody, Joey. Nobody can get inside.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
he's
yeah,
got
that guy's
rockets in his hands.
That guy's
Last time I watched this guy
lanky.
fight, he put a hurting on whoever he was fighting there.
Who
but
was it? Was it
Hamza
Buddy?
Shiraz.
No, it wasn't the guy who just fought. Who just got whooped? It wasn't even close. The tall individual. Man, his name's not
You're
bad.
talking about
yeah, you
the
know-
guy with a sister. He's got a sister
Yeah.
who's also really good. Fundora.
Yeah, Fondora.
Fondora's
versus-
good
Who
fighter
did he
as well,
fight
man.
again?
I forget.
But we
he
know
put
who
hands
it is,
on him,
right?
bro. He
But
put
the
hands
names-
on him.
Yeah, we just can't come up with the name.
Forget
Someone in the
the
chat
name,
who's
yeah.
that close or who knows boxing, please put it in there because the name's just not coming to mind, even though
Yeah,
he's
please.
more or less common. Anyways, aside from that, here it is, right? So we're getting that curl over, market looking relatively strong. Someone saying, hey, watch out for AMD. My issue being there is a nice indecision print right here. My issue being that it's not participating. Nor do you have that curl over pattern that we are experiencing in Tesla, NVDA, the SPY, and the TQQQs as we head back towards the volume weighted average price. Now, if it starts to form, then you can find a potential long. But aside from that, I'm going to keep away. I want to look at Netflix and see what that has been up to. Did we get that full-blown recovery? Not quite, but that base is holding up relatively well. So if we get into the detail of the price action, sure enough, we can maybe find an entry at the lower end of this range. 93.88s, if it cracks lower, 77 roughly. If it cracks lower, then you get out of Dodge, you give it 10 cents. Nonetheless, if it cracks, find something else. It wasn't Corano versus Rousey. Man, who was this guy? We talk about him all the time. It's driving me nuts.
What happened?
No, the guy, Fundur, who he fought.
Just fine. You use your friend Copilot there. You'll find out in 1 second, man.
Well, I thought you would have done that for me. Randy.
I'm gonna have
You
3
didn't-
trades,
no.
bro. Like, can I get a minute? No, I'm kidding.
Keith Thurman, man. Thank you.
Yeah, he put hands on Thurman.
Durant
But Thurman
quarter.
is beyond his prime here.
Yeah.
That's not really a
It
fight
doesn't
that
even
I
matter.
think.
You can't even touch that guy. He's
No, well, that's the point of getting these lanky guys that fight in smaller weight divisions. Like, if you're 6'3", and you've got some muscle, you're fighting either in cruiserweight or you're fighting in heavyweight. But Hamza Shiraz is skinny as hell, right?
Yeah.
But he's still obviously got some bombs in his hands.
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of that's your problem, right? Then don't fight him. Move down weight class. All right, guys, here's the deal. WLDS took out that prior area high. We took a couple of beak wetters there, but I've seen too much before with WLDS to think that this is going to be the move here. Now we need to get above 3. I'm in at 74s. I wet the beak there on the price spike up, I believe, into 82. High of the current bar is 83. Not a bad look, but definitely not out of the water. This could turn on me and turn on me quickly. It happened over here. Take a look. We got in, stopped out. Got in again because there was a clear area of support here. Got stopped out. Now, this wasn't as big of a loser as this one here, but nonetheless, it was a loser. So I need to be careful with WLDS because it doesn't comply with technicals, at least from the way that I observe them. So we've got a good chart pattern. Just to give you an idea, prior bar low is 264. That's where I'm looking at getting out. If it loses that, it loses trend, I'm not interested. Nor am I interested yet in adding on BlackBerry. I'm going to need to see a little bit more. Again, likely a move above 64 or 65. That works me back into the trade. And last but not least here, piece of crap WLDS, man. FLWS, this one's still hanging out above the 10 EMA on the 5, but it hasn't lured me in to add more as the volume has dropped off a little bit. So I can't really be adding there. Goodness gracious, look at WLDS turn just as soon as I said it, right? So we're gonna get stopped out if prior bar loses, and if I get stopped out here on WLDS, pardon me, that will be the last time I traded on the day because that will be 0 for 3 on this. Okay, but that's again predicated upon me getting stopped out. I get stopped out at 263. It hasn't made its way down yet. Ruknamalu. I probably butchered it, but I apologize. Hood.
What about it?
At VWAP. Let's have a look. The hood always up to no good. Yeah, it's straddling VWAP, brother. VWAP here looks like a line of best fit as opposed to any area of support or resistance. It cuts right through that price action like it owns the joint. Let's have a look. Oh, Joey Shivers
Crazy
is
out
back.
here, man.
Your boy Joey Shivers is back. There goes. Hell yeah. There. Put it on, Joey. There you go. Come on now.
It's cold out here, man.
It's cold out here. My days.
Neil's cold.
Neil's cold? All right.
He's mad.
Okay. I'm not.
Ramin probably has a blanket on.
Ram. You got a blanket on? No. That's just her sweater,
Just
brother.
sweater. That's her
Okay,
sweater.
there for no reason.
All right.
Hood. I got nothing positive or negative to say about Robinhood intraday because this is, I would stay away from a trade like this. If I pulled up the chart, I was asked, do you want to trade this name? I would say no for Robinhood on the day. It just hasn't done anything for me to be like, okay, you know, I can probably get in here, find some support here, some resistance there. This ain't for me. Now, I can take a look at the wider time frame if you'd like. We can talk a little swing here. I love the, Joey, you look at this base. Come on, look at this 70 resistance generally, right? I want to say generally.
Robinhood, yeah.
And then look at the clean hold of that
man.
level. That's quality
cash.
TA right there. I love that. The buyers who were selling here, all of a sudden, they're interested in buying at this level. So clean hold of 70. What I do see is like you're likely to encounter a lot of resistance at $100 because $100 was very, very staunchy area of support. Bounced off $100 multiple times, $100 area. So first and foremost, you're right at that 200 moving average now, exponential on the daily. You got to clear that. You clear that, you're looking at that $100 area as some general area of resistance. Above that, I think it's a good setup, but it'll have to get there first. Continuing to watch WLDS. It's holding prior bar lows, so it hasn't failed that, but I'm not super bullish on this one until we can get above some prior bar highs. UG or UGuy 33. Shout out to my man UGuy 33. Sharif, could you please take a look at APLD? Of course. Well, they pay me. APLD. Very consolidative on the daily. I'll give you more of my opinion as soon as we get back from Adair.
Look over this headline quickly. Keep an eye here on USO and the market. Channel 12, which is an Israeli news station, reporting that Israel is preparing to return to fighting with Iran at any moment. So again, these tensions in the Middle East do continue as we were expecting. Israel preparing to return to fighting with Iran, quote, at any moment. Back to you.
Oh boy.
Yeah,
All right.
I mean, yeah.
Can I just cover APLD?
Yes,
And then
you can.
take over. All right. Here's what I'm seeing here. APLD. I'm assuming you're asking intraday. This is the volume weighted average price. Let's see if it holds up here. It didn't hold up initially at VWAP. It lost it at 11 a.m. It dipped into an area low right on the 1105 bar of $30.80 and a half. Volume weighted average price is right around $31 and a third. It's an unbroken downtrend, so I wouldn't necessarily be looking to go long until that trend line breaks. I get you can scalp something off VWAP for a nice move up, and it looks like that's what's happening here. But for me, APLD on the day is a no-go. Daily, as I mentioned before we went to Adara, very consolidative. You're looking at low 20s for support at the extremes. You're getting 20. You can see that here very clearly. Most of the time, though, you're getting mid-20 prints, 23, 24, generally. So if you're looking at building a position, I'd be putting a resting order into the mid to low 20s. And then if you're going to trade it as a range, if it's not an investment for you, I'd be looking for $35. That's generally where we find some resistance. You can see, obviously, we get up above 37.5 with the extremes going to 42.5. But a very consolidative range for APLD. And if you view this on the weekly or even the monthly, this looks like a bull flag, right? You get the big breakout, the consolidation component of the bull flag. So this one could be at $50 if we get a breakout. It'll have to obviously jive with the fundamentals. APLD, good look. Nothing for me on it though, Joey.
All right, good stuff. Yeah, I mean, Darius, I see where you're getting at, man, but when you mentioned it from before, like now we're starting to see some volatility. You can see the tape and the price action starting to get a little flickery, but essentially, Darius, brother, when you were talking about it, like, yeah, it's going to explode. It's bounced and put in a new low, but you can see how much weaker it is. NVDA is all the way at the volume-weighted average price. The market is right below VWAP, and we're not even anywhere close to that neck of the woods. Is this thing going to play catch-up? Maybe. But I'm just not getting that feel. Can I be totally wrong? Absolutely. I don't love this back and forth. Israel saying that they're ready to to get things going at any given moment now. So it's like the second the ceasefire ends, it's just boom, button, button, button. We're just sending rockets left, right, and center. Hopefully that breaks. There was a good opportunity at 76. You get 10 cents if you're using AMDL, which I'm going to be using that via my vehicle. And then also, just for everything else, it's just I don't love this choppy price action. There was a strong move back in Bitcoin as I pulled this up one more time, especially off of those lows. You have the support level of 42.55 being broken, and then you bounce right off it momentarily after that support level was breached, and then sure enough, off to the races, and you establish a new high of the day, pulling back now and hovering above the volume-weighted average price. But where can we correlate this previous resistance zone? The current support system. All right, so we're holding up really well right around this zone, and then now you're starting to see something really, really hold up, and that's going to be IBIT, SPY not doing too much. So I don't see anything that's overly attractive. Is that going to lead me towards the small cap land? No, they're not. It's not. They're not scaring me at all. I'm just not. Listen. If you're collecting data, if you know your style of trading, when we have this back and forth within the market, one stating something and another country stating another, it's just not my style. I'm not good with it. The headlines can step in. That's fine. But as for the price action, look at it. Look how many overlapping candles there are. The previous week. Phenomenal trading, easier. You have a specific direction. I just don't get that vibe. And with that being said, it's self-awareness, nothing to do with fear. It's just how it is. Like, why am I going to continuously put myself in scenarios that I don't have the utmost confidence in? No, I'd rather put myself in a position where I have more probability and more conviction within it. And I just don't have it right now.
I couldn't agree more, man. I mean, if you're not going to have conviction in a trade, I used to. You never met him, but I always mention him. Greg McEwen, man. He used to be
the floor manager.
Exactly.
We were out with him on Friday.
No way.
Yeah,
he's here.
He's here. Yeah. We were at Ruby Soho.
Nice. I didn't even know he was in the city. He's back from Montreal, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I think he just came to visit.
A day or two?
Yeah.
Nice.
Seen Brankles and stuff.
No way, you saw everybody, huh?
And Luca was there.
How's Luca?
Yeah.
Not Luca.
Yeah. I heard his nickname. It's jokes.
Oh, what? Oh,
Luca.
What are
Scalp Demon?
Yeah. That's what he was known as.
Yeah,
oh my goodness, you remember? You know that. I love it. Yeah, shout out to Luca, man. All right, guys. Here's the deal. I had something to say. I completely forgot.
Conviction.
Greg McEwen, he would always talk about conviction, and he's like, if you don't have conviction, you're never going to put the size behind the trade.
Exactly.
And the example he gave was actually quite interesting. So he used to be a salesman for something or another. I don't remember what it was, right? And he was always talking. He's like, his manager would be like, Greg, yes, you know what you're selling is quite expensive. I think it was, I don't know, it was like something like car, not even cars.
Yeah.
It was expensive. The point is, he had trouble himself feeling that like the product that he was selling was worth what he was selling it for. He wasn't convinced in the product himself. And because he wasn't convinced, it was coming off pretty apparent
that he's
the customer. Because he was, he's like, oh, I know this is expensive, stuff like that. Well, you saying stuff like that. You gotta be like, this is absolutely
and have
worth.
belief in it. Like,
Exactly.
listen, it's worth every single penny. And that's when, like, hey, right out of the gate, I thought that we were gonna climb higher in Bitcoin. Bang, no problem. I risked essentially like 30% of my shutdown on both of my entries, right? Like, it's like I had the conviction. Right now, I don't have it in this chop, and I'm totally cool with that. Let's see what everybody outside in the chat says. Henrik, exactly.
Hold on, I have to cover this. Sorry. WLDS halted down. I'm caught in the down halt. This is trouble. Thank God I have small size on this one.
Good.
The point, though, is this one is on Uncle Sheriff's you-know-what list now, and I'm not touching it again. Look at that. That's kind of the way it is. But we'll still say positive on the day because we've done well on all these other trades. So, but we're caught in the down halt right now on WLDS. It's really ugly, Fabian. That's kind of the way. That's the cost of doing business. So that's a bit of an issue there. But there goes FLWS into another area high. 493. Let's take out some here. Looking for a little bit more now. I'm looking for the high of the day into 5. That's going to be my bias on FLWS. We know that this one's been kind of pretty close to that $5 level. Let's see what this one has to offer. And last but not least, BlackBerry, I've got nothing to add on. And then Q. This was a new trade that I got into. I wanted to mention that my stop for Q is 77 pennies. So we're giving it to this area here. What I saw was this kind of rounding shape. This is like perfect. Like this might make another attempt at 85. If we lose trend and we lose 77 pennies, I'm gonna be out of this one. And I haven't added on BlackBerry because it hasn't given me a reason to. So I'm looking again at that 5.5, guys. I think 5.5 might be the area on BB that you want to get into there, given what it did over here. So BlackBerry is certainly in focus.
Good stuff, man. That's what I want to see. See, Darius, look what's going on with AMD. You're about to put in a new low of the day momentarily. You know what I mean? So like, with this chop, brother, and something that's not participating within the market rally, there you go. You're breaking through some key support levels, right? So keep that in mind. Look what we've been doing. We've been trading within this dollar something, the 70, 80 cent range for the past 40 minutes on the TQQQs. Now, you can hyper-focus and really get involved into the time and sales and where you're buying the lows on these dips and selling the highs and buying the lows of the consolidation range. But you have to be so precise. You can't just punch. You can't have a cross. You need to limit in at an exact price and wait for that to come into play. And we're just not doing that right now. We'll do it in the latter half, and I have no issues. That's your long. Darius, brother. How are you going to continuously tell me to do that? Obviously, just having a conversation with you when the thing is consecutively putting in new lows. You can't. Like, are you going to DCA into an oblivion to the point where it just decides to tank? No, dude. Like, it's literally, it's like, all right, Joe, now you said this here. Okay, let me break this down. At 12:35, it's a long. That's what you said to me. I remember the time exactly. 12:35, it's a long. Dumps another little bit. Again, it pulls back, rejects the resistance zone. Now at almost 1 o'clock, it's in another long. Like, brother, trust me, I know. It's not that I don't trust you. It's just that what price is telling me. I can't have you tell me essentially go long here when what I'm seeing isn't the long. How many times have I agreed with you? Yeah, absolutely, that's a long. But I just don't see it happening right now. Like 15 out of the past 16 sessions have been green. At some point, it's going to cool down. You're down 1.8% here on the day. And I just don't see us stepping in and having that aggressive buy program coming in around 1 o'clock in the afternoon. All the big boys are out to lunch, right? Inverse. Oh, Kahlua, that's crazy.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that is crazy. You seen what they said?
That's mean, bro.
It's mad mean. I thought Kahlua was my boy, too. That's insanity.
Well, your boys are always like the ones that chirp you the most.
It is, right? So it's all love is at the end of the day, hopefully. Aside from that, but no, this is like at a time where we can essentially focus on the tape. Like, look how weak it is. Every time you get a pop, and then sure enough, things start to cool down, and you have that immediate defense. So, yeah, I mean, that's a bad idea. Defense. Don't forget. Your boy never forgets, eh?
Yeah, people definitely don't forget.
People
BYND,
don't forget.
guys, into the high of the day, one to look out for. It's on its way to $1 possibly with a 97 penny high. Remember what this one did on Friday. It broke the dollar, then all hell broke loose to the downside, and it was essentially a sell all day after that dollar breach. Keep that in mind because it's still very much rangy, right? Like we haven't done too much since that day. We're going up to a dare.
When I hear on the market, we're getting some comments from CEO of Charles Schwab. Here's SCHW, not doing too much, but again, these comments are more about the market and inflation. So Charles Schwab, sorry, no, this is not Charles Schwab, Wells Fargo here, CEO, they're saying that private credit, they don't believe is going to crumble, and they're actually pretty sure that consensus is that the lowering interest rates would be the wrong thing to do until there's an end in sight to the Iran conflict. So they're basically saying central bank should not lower interest rates. Wells Fargo also saying that they don't think private credit is going to crumble. So once again, here comments coming from CEO of Wells Fargo, not Charles Schwab here, just on the economy. Generally, they're actually being pretty cautious here with regards to rates, but once again, saying that they don't think private credit is pretty cool. Back to you.
This piece of crap WLDS is going to be 10 minutes. So 47.01 was the halt time. It is now 52.43 or whatever, 52.41, 52.54. So this one will be 10 minutes. So the earliest this will be open is 12:57:01. Yeah. Well, they're just my luck, right? Just my luck. Got caught in a down halt because I'm talking, and this one's gonna be 10 minutes. No, but that's the way. That's the cost of doing business. And that's the way she crumbles, man. All right, watching BlackBerry, it's at 49 right now. I'm interested in a $0.50 ad, but I'm not gonna add blindly. I'm going to continue to watch to see if the buyers actually step in at around the $0.50. That was the area that I earmarked for a possible ad, but you know, it's a possible ad. It's not a guaranteed ad. The possibility here being that the buyers step in, I see what I like, and I get involved. So nothing doing right now on BlackBerry, continuing to watch that. And then FLWS continues to move into the area high. Trading naked, are you? No, I'm wearing clothes. Can't see the collar there. What's going on? FLWS just got into $5. What a breakout there. There's your move into FLWS. Good look on this one. Watch out for resistance, though, at the $5 area. It could turn back a little bit here. Be on the lookout, though. So that's what I'm looking at now. Still nothing on BlackBerry. This is going to be halted for 10 minutes. I'm still in Q, doing nothing on Q, showing about 79.25 pennies. I've got my out ready. If it loses the bid, it loses the bid. But yeah, not doing it. Mike, I've traded naked. Why, Mike? Why? Did you just get out of bed? You're like, yeah, I'm not going to step out of the house today. Let's trade naked. Shout out to my man. Mike for sure, says Casey. Yeah, you know Mike P. DeRider be doing that thing. There's my guy. Tesco, Sharif, WLDS warrant sold at $1.73, cost of $5 million down. Yeah, brother, I am caught in the halt. There's nothing that I can do other than wait. It will be open, hopefully, in about 3 minutes. It's 54 and change now. It halted at 47.01. Yeah, like I had to stop, but the stop obviously didn't get triggered because it was an area of illiquidity, and I got tanked right back down. So that's on me. What can you do? Not sold, exercise that fill, diluting existing shares, says Hangaroo Wife. Bovin says SLNH is moving up. Let's take a quick look at that, and he's absolutely accurate. Let's take a quick look at SLNH. Yeah, this is a good one, Bovin. This is not bad at all. It's not the volume king or anything like that. Well, and actually not bad. About 36 million shares, Bovin. So it's $1, that's why. This is going to find its way onto the side chart. I'm going to take off piece of crap, WLDS, SLNH. Thanks for this one, Bovin. I'm going to take off Poet. I'm going to put on SLNH. Oops, I typed it wrong, SLNH. Yeah, so this one to me is an ad into the high 30s, like at around 37, something like that, give or take. All right, what time is it? What time is it? I got to get out of this position, 56:01. Yeah. I have about a minute until hopefully WLDS opens the top. It's not pretty, guys. It's $1.90, so I'm substantially out of the money on this one. I'm still positive on the day, even with this big move down, because I did good on some of the other trades. Thankfully, I only have very little small shares in WLDS, but it will take off, obviously, some of the dubs, so that's on me.
That's what happens, man. Unfortunately, yeah. I mean, the halts, you're more familiar with them than I am. I had a great time. I forget where we were trading, but we got. Oh yeah, it was like AIXI or something like that. That was a great time. It's good when the halt is in your favor, but when if you have a bunch of shares and the halt's down and then it continues climbing a little bit lower, not so much of a good time. 2 puts, 387.50, big premiums cause earnings, but I am short shares at 392.22. I'm sure you're referring to the T or the triple Qs, not the Ts, not the invert or the leverage.
Get me out.
Okay, that's interesting. 392 on what, brother? Was that Tesla? No, Tesla I'm talking about there. Aside from that, guys, this is what I'm talking about. Like, there it goes. You establish a new pivot low right around that 2165 level, talking about Tesla. Yeah, I figured when I kind of went over some of the price action. iGrow fighting. I like that play off of the lows here on Netflix. As the market is still chopping around, you form this base, and then sure enough, now you get to climb a little bit higher. I do like that long off of that level. This candle didn't work for us, but then you print a second one. That can give us a little bit more conviction within that trade. All right, so I really enjoy that one. Let's head over to the 1 minute time frame and see what we got going on. As you have the base being formed, it's just tougher. You have to be so precise with your entry, or you're going significantly smaller shares looking for that wider stop in that bigger move, which can totally happen. But look what the market has been doing essentially all day. Okay, like it's like, all right, I don't like anything. We just work and we try to recognize patterns, just so essentially we can get a little bit more comfortable trading within this. But you guys seen what we did on Friday. It's like bull monster. So when I'm on my game, it's like, okay, if you want to inverse Joe, you're in a lot of trouble when I'm on my game. And I tell you that I have no issue saying it whatsoever. But when it's this, by all means, take the trade. Look at the first hour of the session, overlapping, and then you take that additional leg higher. You eventually slingshot back up into the volume-weighted average price, and then now you've just been trading within this dollar range, right? So just keep that in mind. I wouldn't be surprised if you get a little bit more of a curl over, and with that being said, we need more data to be released, more candles to be printed in order to see if we get that turtle shell style of price action and then go to head towards the low of the day, because the only time we've had the ability to breach VWAP was out of the opening drive. And then sure enough, 45 minutes, an hour later, we have yet to claim it and hold it. So what does that tell us? That sellers are in control. And if you can get advantage of popping any, fading any pop, then I think you're putting a little bit of probability in your favor with the exception of being Netflix. Tesla heading towards the lows, right? So you have that consolidation, a slight channel being traded, and then sure enough, you have sellers step right in, and then it's like off to the races it goes. So Tesla right here, we can see on the 5-minute time frame via TSLA, it doesn't really matter, but you have this strong momentum down here. You don't do too much. You find somewhat of a rebound. You fall into some resistance zones, right? You climb into some resistance zones, more or less, I should say, and then immediately met by some defense, and then now you're heading towards some key pivot levels with the volume and the momentum slowly starting to uptick. It's not going to work good for your long. This was an initial one, but we couldn't even get back to VWAP. So that's why I'm thinking, all right, let's be patient. Let's see if we can find something of high quality and at a good location where our risk to reward ratio is at its premium and at the best potentially possible, then we can take a trade off of that. But right now we're in no man's land for me, and I don't like it. That's why I haven't put on a single trade, and I'm okay with that. Now, AMDL, you're down 3 1/4. You have the Qs, you're right around the volume-weighted average price, slight uptick there, and NVDA doesn't know if it's coming or going, but we have had the ability to breach VWAP. Let's see if we can hold it now.
All right, man. Good look. Just looking through my scanners on the side here, see what's up big on the day or down big on the day. No huge movers, but like there's a lot of red, obviously, in military and defense. You can see a lot of weakness there. Crypto as well. A lot of the crypto names are weak, but the coins themselves, specifically ETH and Bitcoin, still positive on the day. ETH is barely holding on to 2,300, pardon me, 75,400 for the coin. Looking here, cybersecurity names, all green, but not big up on the day. It's a mixed bag. For FinTech, weed on 420, better be green, literally speaking. TLRY, MSOS, MSOX, they're all green on the day, so good look there. What else? I'm just looking through all the different sectors here to spot areas of weakness and strength. The big tech, all negative, except Apple, up 0.75%. You're seeing a mixed bag here in semis and micro, some green, some red. Some of the bigger names are all red. We're talking Broadcom, AMD, NVIDIA, Intel, SMCI, Micron, they're all red on the day. Then you have some outliers like TXN, ARM, ASML, Qualcomm is up. MRVL is negative since the bell, but still up on the day, up 4.5% on that possible tie-up with Google. GFS as well, Global Foundries. Don't forget about this name. It's actually an important company for the less advanced nodes, up 7.75% today on GFS, so not a bad look. What else? We got some of the clean energy names. You got Plug Power, this hot garbage, up 9%. Bloom Energy almost at all-time highs again, up another 5%. Lucid's getting clipped to the tune of 6 1/3. What else? Chinese names are a mixed bag. You got some green like Baidu and PDD, FXI, and then PDD and BABA negative on the day. The EVs are also a mixed bag. Li Auto green, XPEV Neo down. By the way, Zeekr got moved, guys. Zeekr lost its spot. I think it was like on the NQ. It's now on the OTC. So ZK got kicked down there. I don't know why they moved down. Did they change their primary listing? Because I'm pretty sure they weren't under $1. So no idea. GFS is aggressively hiring from Korea, says JL822. Interesting. Wouldn't be surprised about that at all, quite frankly. It's either you're hiring from Taiwan or you're hiring from South Korea, and we know why. That's where the expertise is in chip manufacturing lies. So either Samsung or, what's it called? Taiwan Semi, obviously. Guys, BlackBerry's uninterrupted to the low side here, man. So BlackBerry's coming into the volume weighted average price. So it didn't hold up at all at 5.5, and the VWAP here is at, I think, 538. I'm long 539. I'm out. We're going to take the money and run here. But quite frankly, if we get yet another hold at the WAP, I'm going to get in again on BlackBerry. Hopefully we'll ride it a little bit higher this time than we did last time. But BlackBerry out. So we're just holding Q now. How's the Q trade going? All right, Q's finding some support. I'm in at 81. It's showing me 81 right now, so we're break even. I'm looking for a bigger move up on Q in about 84, 85. The high of the day is 85, so certainly watching that. Looking for a price spike up. Already have my stop set in place. Maybe I should give it a little bit more room given what happened to me on WLDS. But those are my trades right now. Looking for BlackBerry at VWAP, assuming it holds up. I'm not going to punch in blind at the VWAP level and then hope for the best. It's going to have to hold up there. And then Q, we're also looking at that. And then last but not least, before we go up to Ceja and Adera, I want to tell you guys, BYND, bottoming tail candle through the technical level, moving up into 95. There could be a chance here that we get into one, maybe a little bit above one on BYND. It's up 15 4/5, Joey. So beyond me, second strong day in a row. We'll have to see if it's got the juice to get back or even take out one, because it could take out one on a closing basis on Friday. We're going to pause. We're going to Adera for news, and then we're going to start the news segment with Ceja.
Couple things to be aware of here. I want to talk about CRWV. It was just spiked pretty nicely here, very likely because we had comments from James Altucher, who runs a blog mostly focused on M&A and investment news. He's basically saying that there's a certain indicator that suggests that a large institutional investor like a hedge fund, mutual fund, or pension fund could have gotten involved in CRWV today ahead of a big announcement. Now, obviously, this is super speculative, but either way, potential large investor involvement here in CRWV on watch, and why we got this little spike here, roughly dollar spike in this 3-minute candle on this speculation from James Altucher. I also want to mention here more oil news. This part we already kind of knew, but we're just still getting comments on Iran and the U.S. and these negotiations later this week in Pakistan. Wall Street Journal reporting that Iran is sending their negotiating team over on Tuesday.
Hi guys, let's take a look at the news segment for today. So our first story that we're going to take a look at is Eli Lilly. So LLY has agreed to acquire Kelonia in a deal that is worth up to $7 billion. Now let me give you a bifurcation on this. Eli Lilly has said that it has agreed to acquire Kelonia and it will be paying $3.25 billion up front. The total will end up at $7 billion. This is as per comments from LLY. The remaining payments are contingent upon clinical, regulatory, and commercial milestones. This is as per, again, comments in reports from LLY. Kelonia is developing a next-gen CAR T therapy targeting multiple myeloma, which aims to eliminate chemo and complex cell manufacturing. So this asset currently is in a very early stage, which is phase 1 has been cleared. And for LLY, oncology is already contributing $9.4 billion of the $65.2 billion revenue. And this move only deepens Eli Lilly's exposure to the $240 billion hematology market. And currently, LLY is trading flat.
So first thing I like immediately off the bat is the focus away from GLP-1s. Now we know that retatrutide is being developed by Eli Lilly, expected to come out within the next 2 to 3 years. It's in a phase 3 trial. Perhaps the Trump administration allows it to fast track through the FDA, of course, but until that time, retatrutide you're going to have to get on the gray market, so to speak. But that's going to be a huge one for them. It's a triple. It has 3 active ingredients. It targets 3 different hormones, that retatrutide one, as opposed to the other ones like Wegovy and Ozempic, which target 1. So that's going to be big for the weight loss game. But in this specific instance, you like to see them shift away from concentration risk, especially with these weight loss drugs. You have a lot of exposure to that already. So getting into another very important area, in my opinion, obviously cancer, especially if you have the opportunity to remove chemo all together. That could make your TAM huge. And oncology, according to them, already responsible for almost $9.5 billion. But that's $9.5 billion of a $240 billion market. So they have very little in the way of market share from that right now. So I do like this look for Eli Lilly, especially with their recent reputation of following through. Like, they have the ability to develop these drugs internally through R&D and get them to market and be profitable.
Yeah.
We've seen this multiple times, whether it's GLP-1 injections or catching up to Novo Nordisk with their oral pill.
Yeah.
But I like seeing the move away from that concentration.
And getting
on
the
weight
oral
loss.
pill out before Novo.
It's already out.
Yeah, they're out before Novo Nordisk. Anyways, aside from that, you're up 50% off of those lows, 17% off of those highs. I mean, we had obviously the issue with Donald Trump looking to essentially lower everything and saying if you're not bringing everything in, you're going to get tariffed essentially. So I mean, at the end of the day, some of these biopharmaceutical names are a little bit more difficult to trade. But as for Eli Lilly, has definitely been their better performer than what we've experienced here in Novo Nordisk. It's been absolutely disastrous in Novo, and not necessarily the case here in Eli Lilly.
Yeah, I agree with that.
See ya.
What do we got next, Tia?
We're talking about MRVL. MRVL has ripped on the AI chip talks with Google. Look at the chart here, guys. It's literally proof. And Google is in discussions. Google is in discussions with MRVL to develop 2 new AI chips. Now, one of the chips is a memory processing unit designed to work with Google's tensor processing unit, that is the TPU. And the other chip is a new TPU that is built specifically for running AI models. Now, MRVL does benefit as a custom silicon partner, which reinforces its positioning in hyperscaler-driven AI demand. Now, the timeline is that the memory chip design will be completed by next year. But what I also want to take a look at is what does this mean for Broadcom? Now, in the first week of April, the company had recently agreed to produce future versions of Google's AI chips, but the company shares have fallen nearly 2% as a reaction to this report only. Now, looking at the bigger picture, this will strengthen the AI CapEx cycle. How, you ask? Well, with hyperscalers that will invest deeper into proprietary chips versus solely relying on NVIDIA for them.
So there was a report earlier on that came out that Google was, or possibly this was not the only company that they were speaking to. I couldn't really find those headlines, to be quite honest, but it did react a little bit in the pre-market. So what I like is that they're developing a chip for something that's very much in vogue at the moment: search, ads, and cloud. I mean, and if we kind of group cloud with NeoCloud, then they've basically got exactly the moat that we're looking for there. So I do like this tie-up. We'll talk a little bit more about it. We got to pause. We got to go to Adara.
Yeah, I have to clarify further here on Core. We've CRWV getting another spike on more comments from James Altuche. Again, he runs an M&A investment-focused blog mostly. A lot of it is speculation. So he's saying, as we mentioned, there was some speculation CoreWeave could be getting massive institutional investment as of today. Now, furthermore, he's speculating that certain suspicious buying activity suggests that CoreWeave could actually be a buyout, and specifically NVIDIA could be buying out CoreWeave. Now, this is incredibly speculative, but I do want to let you guys know because CRWV is pushing a little bit higher. Pure speculation here that NVDA could be interested in buying out the company. Back to you.
So thank you for that information. So I do like this for the reason that the chip being created is for very desired areas where, again, what do we got here? We got it's search, it's NeoCloud, and ads. Okay, well, search and ads are kind of the same thing there. Whatever. In any event, this is good not just from the chip designing business. I can kind of hear Adara in my ear. If there's some way we can turn that off, Assassino. If this would be great also if it covered photonics as well as networking, which I know are super important parts of Marvell's moat as well. The TPU, though, from a different sense here from, aside from Marvell's obviously stands to benefit, I think Google also stands to benefit with the TPUs in the same way that Tesla could with their new fab. Whereas if they can make these chips not just for internal use, which is exactly what they're going to be used for here, but for external use, so they can compete with some of the other custom silicon manufacturer or designers like Broadcom and Marvell, they could actually be in competition with Marvell because these TPUs could be used also for inference purposes, as we've seen. So they're task specific.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of hesitant to say that they're going to replace custom ASICs because custom ASICs are being designed specifically for the task at hand, whereas Google, you know, they're obviously designing them mostly for their own custom tasks internally, whether or not those overlap with other people's, you know, workloads.
So what I see, so just to add to your point a little bit here, Sharif, because we know what we have going on with Meta, they're struggling a little bit, but it's also both Marvell and Broadcom develop a type of chip called, obviously what you're referring to, ASIC. While such processors lack the all-around capabilities of NVIDIA's GPUs, essentially, they can be designed for predictable high-volume workloads. So they're saying that's what they're essentially for, is the high predictable workloads. But the one thing is that we talked about NVDA just having such a step ahead of everyone that, I mean...
Not for inference.
They're the king of...
Not for inference, they're not.
They were supposed to be stated as the king of inference.
No.
NVDA.
They're certainly not.
Who's better?
Oh, there's a lot better. All these custom ASICs chips are much better at doing inference workloads than training workloads.
Than training workloads?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what we've been saying. Remember, we even talked about NVIDIA picking up that investment in Grok for that exact reason.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
Where you and I were talking about that.
Okay.
PBM is breaking out too, guys.
So, I mean, as for Marvell, you have the $2 billion investment from NVDA as well, too. So, I mean, this stock's been on a substantial run. It's up 80% off of those lows. So, a nice move here for Marvell.
Good breakout there, guys. Watch PBM into 16. That could be the trouble area. Good trade case, because you were looking at this. I wasn't going to trade this into 16, but there's the double top that we were talking about. It's breaking through prior area highs. I'm talking about that 1240 bar as that 1215 bar, so it's got a bunch of higher lows. But whether or not it breaks through 16, if it holds above 16, your guess is as good as mine. But this one is looking real good here. Also, BlackBerry at VWAP and FLWS right into $5 again. BYND as well into 97. That one looks like it might want to take out the dollar. So be on the lookout for those. See ya.
Yeah, we're talking about the American Airline headline this morning. So American Airlines has explicitly rejected the merger talks with United Airlines. Now, UAL has been exploring consolidation to compete globally. And this also means in the Middle East, particularly because, as we know, a lot of names over there. AAL, however, is resisting. Now, a merger will technically create a 40% U.S. market share, which will make an approval extremely unlikely due to the antitrust concerns. Now, there's also significant overlap between UAL and AAL, including the Chicago O'Hare and major hubs in Texas. So AAL has said that even though changes in the broader airline marketplace may be a necessity, a combination with UAL, however, would be negative for competition and for the consumers overall. So the government is open to consolidation, but there will be a clear requirement for asset divestitures.
The reason I was even interested in this, and that's what the article says, was that they were actually trying to take on some of these Middle Eastern carriers. We're talking about Qatar Airways, Emirates, there's Etihad now, I think there's even Saudi Airlines. These are like becoming very premium sort of carriers, kind of like the Deltas. My understanding was that United was looking at teaming up with someone so that they could compete with these type of names, these Middle Eastern names. Doesn't look like it's going to get approved if you believe some of the reports. Creates a 40% market share, as Ceja was saying. That makes it likely to get rejected by the regulator, whether that's the DOJ or whomever. But it kind of also makes AAL trade back into fundamentals. So if we were looking at this one actually being a possible acquirer, we have to view it a little bit differently now, Joey. I don't know how you feel about that.
No, I was just, sorry, I want to take a couple steps back here, Sharif, as we were talking about inference. Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, there are some things that are better than NVIDIA's Blackwell. For raw speed, the etched Sohu, which is I find interesting. That's one of them. And then as for token output, we have the Cerebras WS.
Are you looking at agentic workloads, and are you looking about inference?
Yeah, specifically inference, okay, like in performance.
All right, so let me do my research since you just had the opportunity to, and I'll show you exactly what I mean. Go ahead.
I was confirming with you with what you said, right? Sure. So essentially what I had there, I was looking up a couple of things. Sure. First initial thing was like, okay, yeah, NVDA, but then is there a custom ASICs that has somewhat better performance? And sure enough, as per volume token output, you have the Cerebras WSE3. That is better. All right. So I was just reading that. We can move on on to the next story. I don't know, really, American Airlines drops out after merger denial, I mean, we could take a look at some of the airline companies and see what we have going on there. We could always look at the Jets ETF, see how that's been performing. We know that the cost of oil is definitely hurt the sector, and Jets ETF off of the lows dropped substantially, I mean 25%, so running into bear market territory, which I mean isn't the best. DAL, we can head over to Delta Airlines, not too far off of the highs, and then American Airlines as well too. Let's see with them, and then some of these names, just considering the cost of oil has gone through the roof, you're gonna see a hindrance in them. So you're down 36% off of the lows. You get somewhat of a bounce here in AAL. So I mean, it's definitely tougher. You might see a bounce essentially once this conflict comes to some form of a conclusion.
All right, Ceja, what do we got next?
Talking about crude, so USO is surging on the Middle East escalation. Oil is ripping higher after U.S.-Iran tensions have escalated again. Attacks on ships in the Strait of Hormuz and the direct U.S. military response. So currently USO is in the green by 5%, trading around the 120s region. But the key issue here is that the Strait of Hormuz is a critical global oil choke point. So any disruption will immediately amount to and reflect on supply shock fears. So this entire situation is highly unstable. The breakdown of the ceasefire, the conflicting signals on renegotiations, and the threats of further escalations are definitely making this highly volatile at the moment. So what does this tell us? That there's an unstable and more event-driven trend more than just.
Yeah, it's exactly it. And I always feel like I have really nothing to add when we talk about oil because it's just so headline driven. I mean, anything can come out in the next 5 minutes. I can completely change my opinion. They could strike a deal. The only concern that I've had, and I've had this concern from the very beginning when it comes to these negotiations with Iran, is that I don't know if the individuals or the group that they're trading with is in kind of in agreement with, let's just say, some military leaders. So there could be factions, right? Because so much of their leadership got decimated. So you could have a military faction, you could have some, career politicians, you could have some technocrats that want to save the country from being destroyed anymore, but neither of them can agree. It really depends on who the Americans are negotiating with. And if they're negotiating with one party or two, do those parties agree with the other? And so that's always been my concern. And I feel like that is somewhat true because you see all these kind of conflicting headlines where, one part of the Iranian government may say one thing at one time and then you completely see something a little bit different. Now, to be fair, I think that, there's been developments on our side as well from the Trump administration that have helped to change that. Obviously, the blockade, the naval blockade, the Iranians say that they weren't really anticipating that when they struck the deal. In any event, it just seems to be, and the Lebanon thing again. Remember, like the whole Lebanon thing. Oh, that's not part of the deal. Oh, it's supposed to be part of the deal.
Israel was saying.
Yeah. The States was also saying that they were supposed to be part of the deal as well. The ceasefire in Lebanon, that is. So in any event, I mean, it's just opining on this could be completely, you could be wrong in about like 10 minutes. So.
Exactly. So a headline can step in, and next thing you know, it's like, all right, no longer having a ceasefire, where everything's off the table. It's a very fragile subject because essentially at the end of the day, it's a lot of he said, she said. You don't know necessarily what is true coming out of the Middle East and vice versa. They're probably thinking the exact same thing. And then that's where this headline-driven sensitivity comes into play is that, all right, the block or the Strait is now open. You rally in the market. Oh, okay, as of Wednesday night, that's it, it's done. As soon as that ceasefire ends, we're dropping bombs again and the market doesn't like it. So it's a very sensitive underlying at the moment, and I think that's going to be the narrative until this whole conflict cools down.
All right, Ceja, what do we got next?
Talking about Cleveland Cliffs next. So CLF has reported improved results. Revenue has risen to $4.92 billion. That is a 6% raise and an adjusted loss of $40 cents versus the 43 cents that was expected. Net loss has narrowed a lot to negative $229 million versus the negative $486 $86 million year over year. So now to me, this is proof of cost stabilization despite a lot of macro pressure. Now, there is a steel pricing strength with the average selling price jumping from $1,048 versus the $980. So the tariffs are clearly supporting domestic products. Management of the company has also emphasized that the U.S. trade enforcement is working with imports at its lowest since the financial crisis. The energy cost and the pricing lag, however, is still very existent, but the Middle East conflict is actually indirectly helping supporting the domestic steel demand and pricing. And currently the stock is down in the red, almost 2.6%.
Yeah, so this is a tariff story for me, as you mentioned there. Because of the tariffs, their average selling price has gone up. So obviously that they're benefiting from that. We're kind of hurting on this side of the border as a result of that. We really relied on American customers for a lot of our aluminum exports, and that's obviously been a bit of an issue. But they did emphasize trade enforcement, management that is, of Cleveland-Cliffs. Trade enforcement is working with imports lowest since the financial crisis. There do remain headwinds, though, for the local production of aluminum, energy costs. There's also pricing lag, and there could be more disruptions from the Middle East, which are indirectly supportive of domestic steel demand pricing, Joey. So I don't know how you feel about this one, but aluminum is not really one that I keep a close eye on.
Read up on some of their earnings report. I mean, recent trends, simply read through. Okay, I mean, there's nothing really much going on here. CLF, we can pull up the technicals. Like, I mean, when we were talking about the metals and everything along those lines, I don't know how much of a run a name like Cleveland-Cliffs would have been on. So now, as for the daily, you're really starting to pull back a little bit. So you have about a 41% drawdown, a little bit more than that. We'll call it 43% off of that 1655 high. But when we're talking about silver and that gold run, this wasn't really that play. So, I mean, like this is good, but then essentially you give back the majority of it here on Cleveland-Cliffs off that low of 576 for 576. You get a 200% return, but then you give back the majority of that with the fail to establish a new high here in CLF.
All right, Sia, what do we got?
We're talking about Meta now. So Meta Platforms slips on the Bank of America cut despite solid ad checks. Now, Bank of America has cut its price target on Meta from $820 to $820 from $885, but has kept a buy rating on the stock. So analysts' checks are suggesting a Q1 ad spending, which is broadly in line with no major advertiser pullback here, but that is directly tied to the Middle East conflict, which does help near-term revenue confidence for the company. Now, Bank of America is predicting a Q1 revenue of $56 billion versus the $55.4 billion street, and EPS of $7.44 versus the $6.64 estimates by the street. So the real concern is the macro uncertainty here that can pressure the Q2 guidance, and Meta may likely need to raise the low end of 2026 CapEx guidance due to the rising AI infrastructure costs. Currently, Meta is in the red, down 2.2%.
That's kind of the concern here, especially with this price target cut. You feel like it might have something to do with it. What I really like, though, is that we read last week that Meta was on the way to overtaking Google in terms of revenue generated per year from ads. That's good. What I don't like and what I haven't liked about Meta for a long time is the fact that their CapEx spend, the monetization for their CapEx spend, the window is a lot longer out than Google, Microsoft, and Amazon as a result, because they offer neo-cloud services. Neo-cloud services obviously include AI benefits, and those can be monetized immediately, just vis-a-vis cloud. Whereas Meta doesn't have a cloud division. As a result, they've got to monetize this through ads. As I've been mentioning, I think I said this like 50 times last week, but that's the concern that I have with Meta. They're spinning up a storm, but they're going to have to realize it through monetization. So I wanted to add into your point there. So GPUs are basically, they've got to basically use memory in a different way than than custom ASICs do. And because they use memory in a different way, it creates a bottleneck. So it can't make the inference as quickly as it can on one that uses memory a little bit clearer. So here's what it says.
Okay.
So it often referred to as memory bound. To generate a word, the chip has to pull the entire model's weight from memory. In a GPU cluster, data has to travel back and then forth between the chip and the memory constantly, which creates a bottleneck that slows down the response time with inference.
Okay.
So that's what I was trying to make there. And that's when, remember when Altman came out and he was smack talking a little bit of NVIDIA's chips, and then they were kind of hitting each other below the belt. Altman was like, NVIDIA's chips may not be the best anymore. And then Jensen came back out and he leaked it, neither of which admitted it, right? And he leaked it, he's like, yeah, well, you know, maybe OpenAI doesn't have the best model anymore. And they were just kind of hitting each other below the belt. That's kind of what I'm trying to say, and I think that that's why a lot of companies now, they're focusing on ASICs, and I think it's a lot cheaper too.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, smart play from NVDA as well, too, to have that $2 billion play. Of
course, man. He was wise to that. He picked up on it immediately.
Exactly. I mean, as for Meta, I agree with Sharif on that one. I mean, there's a longer road to hoe for them to start to see a profit being turned. We're already seeing it in Amazon, right? Like, they're already like, hey, we're bringing X amount of money home off of this AI spend, and that's essentially what you want to see. Something that you need to be worried about is how much money Zuck is spending, and he's a repeat offender. Like, we've seen him do this before, and I know it's a completely different kind of revolution than what we have going on, and something that never caught on with him before with his Reality Lab segment. I mean, spent the money, seen essentially no ROI on that for quite some time, and even if he is, they're still operating at a net loss. It's just going to take him a lot more, and we know that they are heavily concentrated in digital ad revenue, and I said this before, and I'll say it again, like you mentioned, I just don't understand why, if you're going to be spending $153 billion, why don't you look into getting into the neo cloud business? Because that's a lot of capex to not really to not look to get involved. I just don't understand why.
He's building these data centers anyway, but like I feel like he wants to use them for ads, right? Like he's not building them.
Which is fair, right? But I wouldn't be like, hey, do you want to have 97% of your capacity to one thing? I mean, if it's a big driver, like we were talking about Google, essentially them catching up to Google in digital ad revenue, but wouldn't you want to diversify that a little bit just in case you have some of these larger companies slow down on digital ad
I personally would want to diversify. Right. I think that's maybe why he's getting into the hardware game. Also to get away from Apple's kind of like stranglehold on how he does things.
But is that hardware going to be that game changer for him? I think is a big question.
She doesn't have as much margins, if that's what you're asking. So I completely agree with that. See ya. See ya. All right, Fabian. Anytime.
So the iShares Bitcoin Trust, that's what we're talking about. Now, the core story, however, here is that the short-term derivatives positioning has been cleared out. And on the other hand, long-term holders are adding aggressively. So what is this necessarily doing? It's shifting the burden of the next move away from leverage and back onto the spot demand. Bitcoin has rallied 20.72% from the March 29 low to the April 17th high. Now, the warning sign here is the execution quality with regards to the recent push into resistance that has resulted in upper wicks on the chart. Open interest has also fallen from $30.46 billion to $27.44 billion, which is about a 10% reset, while funding has moved from a negative 0.014% to a negative 0.002%. Now, this is a little number, but it's showing that a short pressure has eased and leverage is getting cleaned up.
All right, I'm just in this trade here, guys. PBM just broke out into 17. I just took some out there. If it loses 6, there I'm out. All right, so we already gave back the last remaining amount, but PBM was a rip. KC into 1696. It's awfully volatile. We took this one on the breakout in the 30s, wet the beacon to 17s. I stopped out below 16 for the last remaining amount, but what a rip up PBM was. Good call out by you. I definitely didn't have this one on my radar until it cleared 16. That's why we got involved with this one above 16, but it still doesn't have that continuation quite yet. It's failing right now. It's on the way down. It's about to lose 16. There it is into the 1580. So this one is selling off a little bit. Watch out for possible support at 1550, $0.50 level, as well as a 10 EMA on the 5. Limit down is 1470. So PBM really ripping here all over the place, up and down. Let's talk a little bit about this one, though. Let's move down. Bitcoin. All right. Did you see what MSTR was buying?
Did they buy more?
Yeah, they bought like 34,000, I think. Let me just double check. Give me a second here. MSTR, all right, where they picked up 34,000. So here it is. Sorry, 1 second. Yeah, They picked up about 34,116 Bitcoin. That's for $2.54 billion. Average price of $74.40. Guys, they have, the way they fund this is they sell STRD.
Yeah,
you saw this, right?
STRC.
I think there's both, STRK and STRD, no?
I have STRC.
You have STRC?
Yeah, I don't know what this guy has going on, Sharif.
Yeah.
When you're starting to get into these vehicles, like I'm reading something on the STRC, which is going to provide essentially a semi-monthly dividend instead of the traditional semi-annual or monthly schedule seen as. So you might be right on the STRC.
You actually are right about STRC.
Yeah.
You know what he does though? So, if the price drops of STRC right now, let's just look at STRC. It's at 99.31. If the price drops below 100, the company increases the dividend to attract buyers.
That's crazy.
If the price rises above 100 on STRC, the company decreases the dividend to cool demand. So this is the STRC chart over here. I think we should show this because it's quite interesting.
Smokes.
What's going on over there?
I'm looking at the STRC.
Let's look at this daily. Yeah, this is crazy. Look at this.
Crazy,
but you look how embarrassing. Look how very, very little amount of time. Yeah, sorry about that.
I have it up here.
Yeah, the very, very little amount of time that you can spend below $100. It seems to retrace right back to that high, right?
What is this? So 96 cents. Okay. I mean, like you're catching 90. Yeah. Or 90, well,
That's
94.
the dividend.
The amount. The payment, right? Here was it at the lows, 88 cents. I mean, according to Park, the design of STRC is intended to stabilize pricing, reduce cyclical volatility, increase liquidity, and support stronger investor demand. I don't know.
How many do you think they hold now?
Of Bitcoin?
Yeah.
Over 850,000.
You're close. 815. So you had the 5 and you had the 8. Yeah, so you're pretty close. BTC, what's their average price?
Oh, average price?
Yeah.
I already kind of know this, but I'm going to say, considering he bought some now, I'm going to say 74 and a quarter.
Okay, so it says he now holds 815,000 BTC acquired for 61.56 billion at an average price of 75,500.
Okay.
Dude, he has $61.5 billion in Bitcoin. That doesn't yield any assets. But funny enough, look at this. The company also reported a BTC yield of 9.5% year-to-date in 2026, showing an aggressive accumulation strategy. Moreover, it reported in the filing, all purchase price fees include fees and expenses. That's what I mean. So they're yielding 9.5% based on the average price. How's that even possible?
How's that even possible? Like you're trading at that level right now.
I have to get more of an explanation on that. All right, Ceja, what do we got next?
We're talking about AST Space Mobile next. They have crashed on their satellite failure. Now, ASTS has suffered a major setback as the satellite Bluebird 7 had been placed in the wrong orbit and will be deorbited, which means that this can very well be a total loss for the company. The stock did react to this news, and currently the shares are trading in the negative by 8%. The cost is expected to be covered by insurance, but the real issue here is not that. It's the timeline delay and the credibility hit that the company is taking, and not just the financial damage. So ASTS is competing against SpaceX, Starlink Mobile, and eventually Amazon. And this incident is just highlighting the dependency risk on launch partners such as Blue Origin, which was used for the satellite launch here of Bluebird 7. ASTS is still targeting 45 satellites by the end of the year 2026, but the company has only 6 currently in orbit. So if you look at this story in a broader perspective, it tells you that this will keep delivery promises under extreme microscope, and any kind of up or down is going to cause a scrutiny.
So I actually learned something back from Jose during lunch. So I was asking him about short on the telecom companies. And he's like, well, it's not going to exactly work that way. These like space carriers with low Earth orbit satellites like ASTS, Blue Origin when they get up and running, and then obviously SpaceX, they actually need a carrier, a terrestrial carrier. So their satellites go to about, I don't know exactly how much deep into the atmosphere. Mm-hmm. They don't go all the way down. They need then sort of like another, I guess, towers in this case.
Okay.
That then take that signal and relay the signal again.
That they can ping off. Okay.
That I don't understand if that's accurate or not, because the whole point of these things was to be able to use them in areas where there were no cell signals.
So do you? Yeah, exactly.
So I'm not really sure what he meant.
Exactly. Yeah. So very valid point, because we already know that some telecommunication companies here are advertising, hey, where there's no cell towers around, like Rogers is here, you can connect up to this satellite service. So yeah, that's interesting. Is it something that needs to be phased out essentially as the technology grows? But I mean, we talked about this. They're looking to add more. I think it's another. I think it's 45 by the end of the at the end of the year, and then another 15 or so by the end of the month in the next 30 days. So ASTS, it can be a disruptive service. We talked about this. I think where these companies really lie is they have to become middlemen with some of the telecommunications. Why? So they can get their addressable market and their client base. Because just to get people to switch over that quick from their telephone provider, unless you have something that's substantial and significantly cheaper, I don't think people are going to jump the gun too quick in an earlier phase technology.
Let's circle back to that yield thing with MSTR.
Yeah.
So apparently yield is like a key performance indicator. It's like a proprietary metric for them. Okay. It's not like a yield on a bond. Okay. So here's what happens. So in traditional finance, yield usually refers to the cash return on your investment, like a dividend. But for MSTR, BTC yield, and that we were talking about it being 9.5% year to date in 2026, means something else. Okay, so BTC, the yield here, it tracks the ratio of the company's total Bitcoin holdings versus its total number of shares. If the company increases its Bitcoin stash faster than it issues new shares, the yield is positive. Price is irrelevant according to the report in this math. Even if Bitcoin drops to $1, if the company now holds 0.0012 BTC per share instead of 0.001 BTC, the yield is positive. So this feels like it's some cockamamie accounting for him to say, oh, the yield is up. I don't know if I like this, man. This is...
Well, I've heard multiple analysts classify this as essentially financial gibberish.
This is kind of what it means, right? It goes on to explain more about SRTC, the preferred stock for MSTR that we were just talking about. But it's quite interesting. Sell overvalued shares. They sell SRTC or common stock to the market at a high valuation, and they buy cheap Bitcoin. They use that cash to buy Bitcoin at the current market price. The result, because the market value of the shares they issued is higher than the market value of Bitcoin they bought, the amount of Bitcoin backing each existing share actually increases. That's not entirely crazy, but it's just super
sketchy.
Circular.
Yeah, it seems, right?
Right? People are saying Ponzi scheme. I don't know if I'd go that far, but it does seem like a little bit of a stretch. So just wanted to put that out there because yield, I mean, it means so many things, especially in bonds. It means something completely different.
Yeah.
Ceja, what do we got?
Psychedelic stocks rip. So psychedelic drug developers have surged after U.S. President Donald Trump has signed an executive order to fast-track FDA reviews and boost federal funding for treatments like ibogaine. So FDA has instructed to prioritize a breakthrough therapy designations. So the review timelines may shrink from 6 to 10 months to 1 to 2 months, which is a major catalyst for small-cap biotech valuations. Now, $50 million federal funding and a bipartisan support will lower long-term regulatory risk across the space. And I would definitely say that you can expect high volatility here. And ATAI is ripping and trading positively in the green by 25%.
Thank you very much for that, Ceja. By the way, we're going to have Todd Shapiro on with Joey and I during the midday tomorrow. So if you guys, if you guys have any psychedelic questions, bring him tomorrow, guys, because definitely he'll be able to answer that. He's a really passionate guy about his space. Look, I kind of believed in this name, or DFTX, specifically the one I'm involved in, for one reason and one reason only. If anybody heard RFK talk before he took the secretary position, you know that he was really interested in these type of things like he is in peptides as well. So I just took a shot in the dark. When President Trump got elected, I bought MindMed at the time. I've been holding it since that time, thinking that, somewhere in the Trump administration or during his term, that there would be some sort of push to legalize these. And it looks like there is that EO now. I would like it a lot more, though, Joey, if it wasn't an EO and if it was more of legislation. Because that codifies it into law as opposed to, you know, the whims of these executive orders. $50 million in funding. You've got the executive helping you fast track your reviews through the FDA. So you've got both. I think it's good. I think it's good. Now, if you're asking like from the science perspective, I don't know. I don't mind these non-regular kind of pharmaceutical treatments, especially for, you know, what do they call those? Mental,
like PTSD,
psychological
PTSD and stuff like
ailments
that.
and things like that.
Yeah. I mean, my big question is with all this stuff, and I mean, I'm going to look at this from a technical standpoint. I just like this is good stuff, obviously, for war veterans. There's some proven scientific or medical benefits behind that. But essentially, it's like, okay, this is good, but I don't think it's going to compare to what we've seen in the weed boom, right? That was all fun and games. Is the space that popular? And I mean, what is abuse of substances like this going to do? We already know people are microdosing already. You can get lion's mane essentially off of.
You can get that on Amazon. Man.
Exactly, right? Like, so that's what I'm saying. You can get that off of Amazon. We had stores here in the city. I don't know how they've been performing or how they're doing. There was nothing compared to what we've seen from the recreational cannabis standpoint. It's like you got shut down the next. Like 2 days later, you were open. I just don't see that happening in regards to this.
I heard you make that comparison this morning, but this is like more for medical as opposed to recreational.
Yeah. I mean? No, like, 100%. Yeah, I think that's the case, right? Like, and that's what I'm getting at. So that's why I'm saying there's not going to be as much strength in this as I think we've seen from a recreational standpoint in regards to cannabis.
I'd have to agree with that. Yeah. Psychedelic stock TSX on the TSX called MDMA or OTC MDX. XF. Let's have a look.
There was CMD.
Those are not good, Neil?
There was CMD as well this morning that came up on the scanner. Clear Mind Medicine that's working in the psychedelics.
MDMA. Well, that's so hilarious. I can't believe they actually put it MDMA. That's just. How did they even let them do that on the exchange? Do you not know that? Anyway, yeah, nice breakout there. It was trading under 10 pennies at around 1 penny. So this one popped up now to 1.69 pennies, so not a bad look. What's the other one? MDXXF. MDXXF, so that's obviously on. I don't have that one, actually. I don't know. I can't pull that one up. Eclectic Passions. Thank you for that, though. Mike, stop. Mike PD Rider, you're killing me, man. Do you believe in the longevity of these, especially for, you know, I don't know.
I don't know anything about that.
Neither do I. And that's the thing. Like, we always see them like from a recreational sense. But
yeah, I don't know.
From the actual study side. Somebody was asking me,
someone said they're on ketamine right now.
Is that one actually being studied as well? I feel like that one might be with, yeah. That's the thing. I think some people are studying those too.
What's
that? It's like the group.
What?
So it's like ketamine, there's MDMA, there's microdosing, of course. Psilocybin, we know that. That's obviously been talked about for a while. I wonder which ones are actually under investigational studies by some of these bigger companies. We can find out.
Yeah, I'm sure we can find out. Someone's saying, okay.
MDMA is, he's saying that Ichiro says as well. Yeah, I know, I get a whole thing there about it. We're not vouching for it. We're just basically saying that this is what they're doing, guys. So, is that it, or is there one more? One more? Okay.
Yeah, we do have one more. So USA Rare Earth, that's what we're talking about, will be acquiring Ceja Verde, which is a Brazil mine and processing, so in a $2.8 billion cash and stock deal. So this reduces the Western dependence on China, which is currently the dominating country in rare earth supply and leading one. Ceja Verde is Pezeshkian, which is one of the few non-Asian sources of heavy rare earths. So there is a high geopolitical value there. And implication here is that there is a strong narrative trade, but also an execution and dilution risk from the component if you look at it from the stock component. But currently the stock is up. USAR is up 8.2%.
I have nothing bad to say about this. Looks like the metal names are strong today. MP's up 4 3/4. USAR is up big 8 1/5. You know, when you create a price floor for some of these names, and that's what we've seen with some of some of the metals that these guys are going to sell. The U.S. government's basically guaranteed them a price floor. The idea there is to prevent the Chinese from dumping and running you out of business. My understanding was when any other North American player tried to get into the metals game, the Chinese players would come in, undercut them on price, and keep pushing the price floor lower and lower and lower until it was no longer economically viable for the company to operate, at which time they would cease operations or go out of business, and then the Chinese would basically dominate the entire space. That's been the case, I think, for a while now, and the U.S. government obviously needs to change that because they can't rely on Chinese suppliers for obvious reasons, and you're getting support fundamentally here from the government now with respect to this story, picking up new mines. I don't think it's bad. I get there's issues with dilution risk, but I think nearshoring and controlling the supply chain close to your shores is probably the right move.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's send things off to Adira. We'll talk a little bit more about USAR.
I'll be quick. So there was a bit of an issue with the last 15, 20 minutes.
Muted. Okay. Anyways, yeah, Sharif, I agree with you. I think that's kind of been, well, it has been Donald Trump's MO, right? Like onshoring, essentially. So, I mean, at the end of the day, we've seen what was going on in the silver move. We've seen what was going on with gold. And Donald Trump's just plan in general was to just get the industrial side of things back onto American soil. Let's send things over to Adira.
So I just want to let you guys know here, again, there was an issue on X, so some news is taking a little while to disseminate. Looks like this issue has been resolved after, I would say, roughly 20 minutes or so. But I bring this up because there was a Truth Social post from President Trump roughly 10 minutes ago, still disseminating now, again, likely because of those issues here with X. But President Trump saying, amongst other things, looks like at least 2 different posts on the subject of Iran, that he is, quote, not under pressure whatsoever to make any deal with Iran, though he said it will happen relatively quickly. So worth noting here, President Trump saying that, hey, I don't have to make a deal with Iran. No one's pressuring me to do so. I will do so if I want to, and I do want to, but I'm not feeling any pressure in that regard. So again, a lot of people are interpreting this as this could take a little bit longer to get this deal than we were initially thinking. So deal here with, keep an eye on USO in the market as President Trump makes these comments. Looks like there were at least 2 Truth Social posts, so he's been active today. Just be aware.
Cool. All right, continuing to watch here, PBM. This one tried to breach prior bar high at 1546. It's not catching the bid right now. I think about 1550, this could be a great long. Holds at VWAP, but it's right back at that same level, 15 to 15 and a quarter, where we had resistance before we popped up into basically the high of the day, 1696, where we have that print. And look, it's still putting in a downtrend. So current prior bar just closed below the prior bar there. Now we opened up a new bar, the 150 bar, which also has a lower high. I get back into this trade if we can move decidedly above 15 and a half. If we do, I'll get long on this trade again for yet another attempt into that $20 area. But I've really got nothing at the moment other than that one, other than to say BlackBerry's also at the volume weighted average price, so something to keep an eye out on there, Joey.
Yeah, Darius, I think now would be the time, right? Like, again, we're at the top end of this range here on AMD. So I'm not saying that we can't find a potential long in it, because that's not the case. But if Donald Trump is willing to kind of extend this, even though say he's in no rush to do so, you have a trend line break right here. If we get a retest, I think that might be a green light to go and a potential climb higher here in AMD and the overall market. We have Bitcoin at a new high of the day, so that's something positive. I wonder if Michael Saylor has anything to do about that. IBIT at one point was down 2.8%, now only down 2% with 43.07 and as its new high of the day. So that's something that we want to see, right? Like just the strength start to step in. Some pullbacks, it was choppy. I was bullish earlier this morning, and it's just unfortunate we were too early to on pulling the trigger on this one as it's continuing to climb. But I had a feeling and a hunch that we were going to find somewhat of a recovery here on the day. Yeah, exactly. And there goes AMD. So pullback, off to the races we go. I think this is a good opportunity to get involved with some longs. We have NVDA above the volume weighted average price, and then the SPY and the NASDAQ just hovering a little bit below and above respectively. Tesla, not quite there yet, heading back towards VWAP as well. So, I mean, a nice recovery. Be careful of some volatility to step in. I wouldn't be surprised if we get an additional headline. Donald Trump saying something. The real big question is, I think, Sharif, is he going to get a deal done by by the end of the ceasefire? I don't think so, but is he going to be willing to push back the ceasefire?
That's a great question. Yeah, we saw him push it back last time when he got a tentative deal, and then it was kind of hit and miss there for a minute until we got the opening of the Strait, right?
Yeah.
So it should be interesting.
I think, if talks are working, whatever JD's got going on in Pakistan is working in their favor, it's not like you're just going to throw all of that out of the window and be like, oh, all right, yeah, we're getting close to something. Nope, boom, the red button on a couple of missiles and send it over.
Oh, wow. We're going there, huh?
That's what they said they're ready to do, man. It's just like, all right, that's cool. Let's get things going.
Guys, I'm just watching PBM here. I'm looking for this one to break above 1550, but it does look like it has a bit of a lower high pattern here. So on the current candle, on the 5, we almost have no body to speak of. The high of the candle, oh boy. The high of the candle, PBM, let's put this over here. The high of the candle is 1536, now the low is 1511, so very little in the way of room. In fact, it looks like this one is still setting up as a downtrend. So I'm not interested in getting into PBM unless it's off VWAP at around 1450. That's a scalp trade for me. I'm going long if it does break above 1550 and 1550 quite decisively. Until that time, it's a basically unbroken lower high since that topping tail candle that we put in right at 131. So the 130 candle on the 5, 1696, that's the area high, followed by another lower high, and it's been a series of lower highs since that topping tail 1696 candle on PBM. So nothing for me to do here other than wait for it to break above 1550 or get back into 1450 where VWAP is. Separately, BlackBerry is now holding up at the volume weighted average price. This is a long hold here at VWAP. This could be yet another long. Now, whether or not we make it into 571, that was a really long pullback. As you can see there, we basically put in lower highs from 12 until 1:15, so an hour and 15 minutes worth of pulling back. But the fact that it's finding support at VWAP is not by accident, guys. Now, whether or not it finds more power to get back up, Scotty, I need more power up to 1550 or 1571, we'll see. But right now, there's enough buyers to keep this above VWAP, not enough, though, to push into new area highs. JLHL says Cool Brioche. Let's take a quick look there. JLHL. Right, let's look at the 5 on this one. Yeah, that's not for me, Cool Brioche. Below VWAP, consolidated, below the high of the day, substantially below the high of the day. Up 37 2/3%, but not really the chart pattern that I'd be looking for, quite frankly. Just going to keep my eye out on BlackBerry and PBM. Yeah, PBM. We're going to Adair.
You guys, we have even more uncertainty here with regards to the situation in the Middle East. Now, this is pretty interesting. Earlier today, we had Axios reporting that the U.S. is going to hold a second round of talks between Lebanon and Israel. On Thursday, this came out, I believe, just before 11 a.m. Now the U.S. State Department, I guess, denying this report from Axios, saying they are not going to be holding a second round of talks between Lebanon and Israel on Thursday. So again, looks like we're not getting a second round of Israel-Lebanon talks as of right now. Just be aware, USO bouncing a little bit here off of this higher low, but nothing massive in terms of reactions.
Yeah, I think that's been the narrative, right? Like, it's like, okay, a couple of headlines drop into the market. You see us tank and breach through some support levels. And then essentially it's just been in recovery mode from that point. And a lot of channel trading, a lot of overlapping prints. You have that pullback and then you put in a new high. You can't break the volume weighted average price and hold on the SPY. You're just breaking it right now here on the NASDAQ. I think being led by the likes of NVDA, that name is continuing to climb and up to that $200 mark. So essentially whatever happened this morning is out of the window. You have this gap up as well, too, when the rest of the market was gapping down. So not too horrible of a look. With the high of around 202, or this is USO. What am I talking about? I thought I had NVDA up there. It switched on me. But yeah, so it gaps down, moving opposite essentially. This was the previous pivot high of 201.20. We talked about the open interest at 202.50. Okay, it was at 68,000 contracts. We can take a look at it right now to see if that's grown in size or it's started to cool off and people covering. I don't see any reason why they would be, considering how earlier in the week it is. So we have the 0 DTE pulled up. Let's head over to that 4-day and see what we have going on that $192 or $212 strike. where we're currently 202.05, 69,000. So only about 500 contracts or so, or 5,000 contracts, really increased the size on that. It's still the same amount, and what we see up here isn't very much, so I wouldn't be surprised if this volume can be absorbed at some point.
You want to take off, brother?
Yeah, I'll go to the washroom and get rocking and rolling.
All right, man.
Say this how it's done over there.
All right. Let's talk a little PBM. Fluffy says PBM getting in there. PBM is getting there, or is it wishful thinking? I'm looking right at it. The problem with this one, Fluffsters, is we're still putting in lower highs quite aggressively, unbroken. Ever since that topping tail at 1696, each candle subsequent has been putting in lower highs. I've been watching. I've been really looking for a move above 15.5 if we could get one quite decisively, but we haven't even been able to breach prior bar high, which has kind of left me out of the trade. I don't think that there is anything to pick up. Again, 1450 for a bounce off VWAP or above 1550 for a continuation into 16, maybe 17 if it really catches a bid, but it's not showing you that. BYND's losing trend here. There could be support at around 91 pennies. I want to say between 92 to 91. That's a prior area low. I want to say that this is a bull flag here with the consolidation area low being around 91. Now, you didn't get a second bull flag. You barely got even a move up into 97. So this is kind of breaking structure. Whether or not it finds support at 91 and then tries to mosey on back into 97, we'll have to wait and see. But BYND losing a little bit of trend, as is CADL, but we said very little about this. FLWS was my best winner on the day, and this one is off the high about 523. This one could find some support at 470 if it continues to sell off. But yeah, guys, the small caps really kind of shut off the buy button towards the afternoon, save and except for that latest attempt on PBM, but we're still substantially below the pre-market high on PBM, having gotten there right at 4 a.m., the high of which is 1985. The best we could do during regular trading hours, 1696, so not much to talk about there. Again, BlackBerry, the only one I'm really looking at the moment because it's got support at the volume weighted average price. It's not pumping up though. This one would have to be, I wouldn't put it right below VWAP, your stop that is. I would put it below area low. That would take you to the 1105 bar, the low of which there is 530. So I'd put my stop at maybe 529. It's at 540 right now. I think that that's a good risk to reward setup, given that, it's a 571 high. I'm not saying you're going to see the high of the day again, but something to be out looking for there. SLNH, I'll leave you guys with this one. Not the biggest volume winner on the day, but one that had a pretty decent chart pattern nonetheless. It looks like there's a huge seller here at 47 that you guys haven't been able, no one's been able to shake since about a quarter after the hour. A move above 50 puts this one right back on trend for a break above 50 and a move into 3/4. So SLNH, I didn't have any trades on this one. Doesn't mean that I can't see the validity of this one. So we'll keep tabs on that. Are you going up to the big board? Hey, all right. So we'll let Joe set up because he's still getting ready. You're good to go already? That's super quick. All right, well, there you go. Joey Opsh ready as well. Shout out to Jackie, SCN. Hope you guys had a fantastic morning with Joe and I on the midday, or I should say afternoon. We're going to send you to the afternoon boys now. Joey and Neil, sending it over to Joey.